Welcome to Stories with Soul. I am your host, Jamie Ice, musician turned entrepreneur and co-founder of 6th Ave Homes and 6th Ave Storytelling. Over the past 10 years, I have launched multiple successful businesses and have become obsessed with all things entrepreneurship and marketing. I've been on a personal quest to unpack what it takes to make and grow a great brand. One thing that I've discovered is that stories are powerful and that storytelling has the power to set a brand apart. Join me as I dive into the stories of the heavy-hitting leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, and business owners in our community to hear their biggest wins, greatest losses, and their best business secrets. There's a story behind every great brand. Welcome to Stories with Soul. Stories with Soul is brought to you by my company, 6th Ave Storytelling. In 2020, we launched a marketing company on a mission to encourage entrepreneurship and make starting and growing a small business easier than ever before. Since then, we have helped hundreds of small businesses and entrepreneurs grow their brands by giving them the tools, resources, strategy, and support they need to craft and share their stories. If you are thinking about launching and growing your own brand, schedule a meetup with me today. I would love to talk to you. Head over to 6thAveStorytelling.com and let me show you how the storytelling approach can transform your marketing strategy. This episode is sponsored in part by Pre-Kindle, the platform designed to empower event creators to develop the best experiences possible for their communities. Did you know that Pre-Kindle was actually founded in DFW and is still headquarters in Dallas? Well, now you do. We love local businesses, and Pre-Kindle is one of the best. With a best-in-class platform of features, no long-term contracts, low service fees, responsive mobile-friendly event pages, and friendly and attentive support, Pre-Kindle is my personal favorite ticketing and marketing platform for any event. Anytime I'm planning something with my band, Green River Ordinance, Pre-Kindle is our go-to platform to use. With an impressive roster of event creators, venues, and entertainment destinations across the nation, Pre-Kindle is hands down the best. In DFW alone, they've partnered with incredible spaces like the Granada Theater, Panther Island Pavilion, the Kessler, Will Rogers Coliseum, the Fort Worth Modern, Tulips, Risley Theater, and more. If you have been to an event or venue in DFW, I promise you have likely been using Pre-Kindle and you didn't even know it. Beyond ticketing, Pre-Kindle also helps automatically promote your event. With over 500,000 subscribers in North Texas and partnerships with event discovery sites like Bands in Town, Spotify, Google, they're set up to also help you spread the word. So go to prekindle.com, that's PREKINDLE.com, and click Get Started to begin using the platform. They are on a mission to bring your event to life. Welcome to Stories with Soul. I am your host, Jamie Ice. I have two special guests today. It is our first ever husband and wife duo. I have Eric and Sainty Nelsen in the hot seats. I've been wanting to have this conversation for a while, ever since you guys moved back to Fort Worth or to Fort Worth. So as I said, I'm going to read your bios real quick, and then we're gonna jump into it. And there's a lot. I had to do a lot of IMDb scrolling because y'all have both done a ton. So Eric, I'm going to start with you. Eric is a 4-time Emmy Award winner for his acting and producing work on the Amazon hit The Bay. At age 23, he became the youngest producer in history to win an Emmy Award. Eric also won a Tony Award for producing the Broadway sensation The Inheritance, and most recently he became he can be seen as the scene stealer Ennis in record-breaking Yellowstone prequel 1883 on Paramount. He is perhaps best known for his work in Hulu's reveal of All My Children, playing A.J. Chandler. He also appeared opposite Liam Neeson in A Walk Among the Tombstones, in Nightmare Cinema opposite Mickey Rourke, which is very cool, and recurred on Showtime's The Affair. Sainty is a Fort Worth native. So I'm excited about that. An actress and producer known for Gabby's Dollhouse, which is like my kid's favorite show. We're going to talk about that. Trolls, The Beat Goes On, Ridley Jones, and The Loud House. She is a 3-time Emmy Award winner before the age of 30. Also bonkers. You'll have 7 Emmy Awards between the two of you?
It's a little wild.
7?
It's
okay.
wild.
She was a 2020 Tony nominee for The Inheritance and was nominated for 11 Tony Awards and was a 2021 Tony Award winner, and also the youngest female producer to ever win an Emmy. So both of you hold like the world's record in young Emmy worlds.
And it wasn't even like a goal or something that we knew was even possible until it happened. And then we randomly got a call saying, oh, hey, you're the world's youngest.
And y'all were together. Y'all were together then?
Yeah, we did.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he has me beat because I'm 2 years older.
Okay.
So it really should be mine.
But that's
But-
crazy. So, and you're probably like the youngest couple also to collectively win,
Definitely.
Emmy Awards.
And when you say it, it never gets old to hear that. You know, it's been years now. I think I was like 23 when that happened, 22, 23. And it's just one of those things that it's like, wow. And it's still holding up.
So you got the Emmy Awards, you got the Tony Awards, you got all that. Anyways, I'm crazy excited y'all are here. I think so. So I first ran into you at the Bass Hall.
At Bass Hall.
That's right.
What were we seeing?
Oh, yeah. It was in Oklahoma. It
remember
was
what
the
it
first show. Was it Dear Evan Hansen or was the one before that?
I don't remember what it was, but we were past each other and you were like, nice hat. And
We
I
were
was
like obsessed with your
and I
look.
was like,
Were we with J-Max?
yeah, you were with J-Mac.
Okay.
And I was like, thanks. And then I was like, oh my God. I was watching 1883 at the time. And I was like, and it was like, wait a minute. And I like grabbed you and was like, I love you. Because it literally, my wife and I had watched it like the night before. And anyways, I've geeked out. And then we ran into each other several times. And I think that was in December. And I'm gonna kick off with a personal story before we dive into your story. So we're here to hear your story. But
Cool.
So we ran into each other a couple times, and then the rodeo happened. It was like January.
Mm-hmm.
And the first night we went to the rodeo, my wife and I and some friends went to there's the Avion Club, which is like, you can have dinner before there. And so we're having dinner, and our server comes up and is like, I just want you to know I was so excited when I saw that you were getting set at my table. I'm so excited you're here. I'm a huge fan. And saying that like in front of my friends at the table.
Oh, man.
And so I'm feeling like $1 million,
Yeah.
thinking she's a Green River Ordinance fan. And so she came up a couple times and was like, I'm a big fan. I think you're great. And I was like, cool. And my like total, like standing a little taller.
Oh, yeah.
And then we get our check, and I'm like closing out, and I was like, thanks. She was like, thanks again. Can I get a picture? And she was like, by the way, I cried when you died. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I am not who you think I am.
But dude, we do look a lot alike.
So
man.
much
Like,
alike,
I could
especially
totally see that.
during 1883. Because
Yeah,
your
and
hair
then-
was so long then,
and I
too.
had a hat on.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And then that whole rest of the rodeo, literally, we went like 3 or 4 times. People would stop me and be like, I'm such a big fan. I was so sad when you died. And at first I'd be like, correct people. And then I just started rolling with it. I was like, oh,
You have
thank
to
you
own
so
it.
much.
Yeah. That
that's-
used to happen to me all the time with other actors. And just own it.
So I have been mistaken for Eric.
Especially in rodeo season, because I was doing all the grand entries
Yeah,
on that too.
you were there at
So they
most
were
of them.
looking for me, and they found you, and they knew they found me. That was awesome.
yeah, but not. It was, anyways. So I've been wanting to have this conversation because we ran into each other, but haven't like sat down and chatted. And you guys are just powerhouse couple. You're doing neat things. So let's kick off with the relationship, because I haven't had a relationship a couple before. So where did you guys meet?
It's a great story.
Yes, it's
you're
kinda wild.
really good at saying it, so I might let you kick it off.
Okay, so Eric was 19 and I was 21.
Okay.
And I had just moved to New York, and I had an amazing boyfriend of 5.5 years. So
Did
this is
he
good.
break up the boyfriend?
Well,
Okay,
we'll
I'm great. I'm
We'll go
interrupting.
ahead. He was amazing, but I always didn't believe in marriage or children. I wanted to be a Broadway star.
You didn't believe in marriage or children?
No, so that was like my goal. Well, I have Eric's cousin, my girlfriend Tess Saltow. We're sitting at Blockheads in the middle of New York, and her cousin skates up, the little 19-year-old. And
Before I rode hoshes, I rode skateboards.
Yes.
Oh, you literally skated up.
Literally.
Oh, this is why I feel like sometimes we'll never get divorced, because depending what Eric is playing at the time, that's who I'm married to. So I'm like,
Oh,
I've
you
been
like-
married to a prep, a skater boy, a cowboy. So I'm like, I'm always with a new man.
So you go all in. Whatever
Oh,
the
yeah.
vibe is,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
go all
But
in.
the skater thing was authentic. Like, that was me. That
Okay.
was
That was his heart and soul. Like
yeah.
when I
I'd
first.
never actually. Well, I did get a skateboard movie once, but I got hurt the third day of filming, and they recast me in the middle of it.
Oh,
And
no.
it was like my dream movie.
It was your dream role.
And I got that's another story. We'll get there.
I know.
after
We
the
could go
personal stuff.
nonstop.
But yeah, so I was a true skater at the time, and
He skates up to give his cousin the keys.
Okay.
And I saw him. And it was like, that was it. Like the gates had opened. Like there
was like,
he was.
"Oh."
I was madly in love, and it was like donezo.
Love at first sight?
Truly love at first sight.
This episode of Stories with Soul is sponsored in part by Project 202, the leader in experience-driven software strategy, design, and development. Whether you're looking to build a new software solution, redesign your mobile app, or kick off a digital transformation initiative, Project 202's customized approach creates solutions that work for your customers. Customer experience drives engagement, and cultivating that experience requires a ton of attention and time. Project 202 is local and has 18 years of design leadership. This team is an expert in using customer-centric methods to build compelling, data-driven customer experiences. Wherever you're at in your business journey, the diverse team at Project 202 will guide you from idea to execution. Go to project202.com. That's projekt202.com and click contact to begin winning the hearts of your customers and exceeding your business goals today. Are you a small business owner or an entrepreneur? Do you do marketing for a small business? If so, I have something that I want to give you, and it's totally for free. We've put together a free resource at 6appstorytelling.com/download, and it's the secrets, it's the tips, it's the tricks, it's the tools of the trade. It's literally everything we do at 6app Storytelling to help small businesses grow. Go download it today at 6appstorytelling.com/download. But you had the boyfriend. You had a boyfriend.
Had a boyfriend. I broke up with him.
That scared. Can I say shit on this?
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
That scared the shit out of me.
We're gonna
I was
get
like,
so
oh,
many
this guy's
phone calls
gonna
after this.
kill- he's like, I don't want to be known as the guy that ruined this relationship.
And he's an amazing man. It had, I mean, incredible.
But he hates Eric now.
Probably hates me. He hates me too. And I just saw him, and that was it. I dumped him that night.
It's like a rom-com.
Truly.
You dumped him that night?
Yes. And I was like, that is the love of my life.
Y'all hadn't even gone on a date?
No. He was dating somebody.
We were both dating people.
You broke up with your 5-year boyfriend because you just saw a guy.
And don't judge me on that. So bad.
So wild.
Because I really, truly. So what's even more wild is, so I see him, dump him. Well, my best friend calls my mother in Texas, and I'm living in New York, and she's like, Sainty has lost it. She has ruined her life for this boy that doesn't even, he's a young kid. He's a skater kid. So should we tell the whole story about this?
Come
so my
on,
mom
it's
flies
a safe
up. You won't mind,
She literally came up to
an intervention.
Intervention of me. Get a grip. You need to grow up.
And you
You're
still
here for
hadn't
this.
gone on a date?
No.
No, but
had you
we're
talked?
friends.
At this point, we were
we're
talking
friends.
and hanging out.
talking?
Yes, so we're great friends.
And
And
were
he's
you
over
interested?
every day.
So we honestly clicked right away. I was like, oh my God, this girl's so cool. So we started hanging out. And once we started hanging out, we literally, I think, spent every second of every day together. But I knew that she had broken up with her boyfriend of 5 years the day she met me. And so I was just like,
that's a lot of pressure.
That's a lot of
No
pressure.
kidding.
And I didn't know
Psycho.
if this was going to be okay.
Psycho.
Who was going to come for me in the middle of the night. I didn't know how it was going to play out. And so it took me a little longer to get there just because she knew so confidently. And I didn't know anything confidently in my life at that point.
Who does?
Yeah. And so but granted, we were together every second of every single day. And there wasn't a second that went by where I didn't want to be with her. I remember I was skipping director sessions and producer callbacks and stuff. And I was like, oh, I'm really not feeling well. And I just wanted to
Be together.
sit on the couch with her and watch
this is
movies.
like a rom-com.
No, it's wild. So my mom
in
flies
New York
up.
City.
Yes, in New York.
This is a movie.
So Hallmark, call us.
Yeah.
No, literally, so my mom comes up and they're having this intervention with me, and she goes and walks down 9th Avenue, and she sees Eric having lunch with this blonde girl. Oh, yeah. Dude, and it's our girlfriend, Kristen Alderson, who's one of our best, which I'm from the South, so guys and girls don't have, unless you're together, you don't have lunch together. You don't have lunch or dinner. My mom calls me, and I'm just like, you horrible mom. He's not, I'm devastated. I am true, lost my mind. I'm calling him.
But what are the odds of her mom walking down the one block in New York City where I'm having lunch with another girl
who's a friend,
and she happens to see it through the window of the restaurant while she's up there to give her daughter an intervention on why she
Because of you.
because of
me.
him.
It was just
The skateboarding,
Oh.
acting.
Bandit.
Yes. So months later, we're still talking. He flies down to Texas.
So
to
your
see
mom left.
And
was
and I still didn't. I mean, when I have my eye on something, I'm like, we always giggle, we're both dogs with a bone.
Okay.
We want what we want, and we Nothing can stop us.
Yeah.
And so he flies down to come see me play Amber in Hairspray at Casa Manana. I'm really going to be a psycho. I swear I'm not. But I sent myself flowers from Eric that with psycho.
Granted, I did send her flowers, but they were signed from my cousin and I, because my cousin and I were the ones that flew down to see the show. But she wanted her own from just me. And I guess I messed up on that.
Sick. I am truly I swear to God.
To show to your mom.
To show to my mom and all my friends that like it is
Look
like
how
if you ask
sweet
my
and
best friends, they all
charming
know
he
this.
is.
It's so sick. I swear. And I'm usually so cool. I think because I never had those feelings before that I was like, oh my God, like this is everything I could have ever imagined. And then right after that, we started dating.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't have gone down to Texas to see you in this show had I not already known I wanted to be.
So
with
you were with each other the whole time, but you weren't. Y'all were just
We
like
weren't official.
Right.
Okay.
But
And
so
I was a little scared because I knew, I was like, this is not the girl I just date. Like,
Yeah.
when I commit to this human being, we are going to be together forever. I just know it. So it took me a little bit because I knew that's what it was. I was like, I need to make sure. Wait, is this really happening? And like her too,
There's
like
no going back once
I
you.
know.
Okay.
yeah. And, you know, I started in the industry when I was 13 professionally in Manhattan. And so the idea of family and a wife and all that was never something on the forefront of my mind. I didn't, you know, a lot of people in the South grew up like that's just what they live for. They can't wait to find that. That was never something I thought about. So to have it truly like sideswipe you when you least expect it, to me, I mean, you know, that was the coolest part about the whole thing. It was just so unexpected and great.
Yeah.
This was before dating apps. Like there was no Tinder.
yeah, so that's a nice thing.
So what year was this?
We met in 2011 and we were married by 2013. So
And
he
you
was
were only
22 and 24.
And that's so super young.
when we got married.
When we
Yeah.
got married.
That's like
Engaged. Yeah, we were engaged a year and a half.
I know. Yep.
And so in I would assume in the world of like New York and Hollywood, y'all are like aliens.
They thought we were
Yes.
nuts.
Yeah. You're married and you're
My friends in LA I was grandpa. I was the grandpa of the group.
uh-huh.
And like kind of live that like, you know, we like to go to bed early and, you know, up early, get stuff done. But obviously we have a lot of fun too. But to all my other friends, it was always just like, oh yeah, no, that's Graham. So he does his own
alien.
thing.
Yeah. That's how I got married. I think I was 23 or 22. I can't remember. But in music world, it was also kind of it was strange. And like our whole band, we all kind of got married pretty early. So there's a lot to unpack here. One, you started when you're 13. I want to dive into that because that's bonkers. And then two, I want to dive into you. You're from Fort Worth.
Yes, sir.
And you went to Arlington Heights, is that
I
right?
did.
Okay, Arlington Heights. I went to Pascal.
Oh, rival.
Rival, but friends. But the sentiment of one going off to go do acting and theater is very kind of contrarian to typical Fort Worth
Totally.
path. And then two, this mentality of I'm not going to get married. I'm not going to have kids. Like, as a kid, were you obstinate? I don't know if that's the right word. Or were you like, I'm going to do my own thing? There's got to be some I'm like running away from.
Totally. I think my mom giggles that when I was 3, I had a really raspy voice. And I got in the car and I saw Casa and asked her what it was, which I have a 3-year-old now, so it's crazy. I said, Mom, they want me to be in a play. And like, as this raspy, horrible voice, my mom's like, what? And it was an audition flyer that they had sent. And so I auditioned, and I was like the youngest.
Wait, how old were you?
3.
Okay.
I was the youngest elf of a professional show at Casa.
No way.
And I think from then on, it was like I had gotten the
obsessed.
bug. I was obsessed. And my mom, it's so sad. I have my 2 best friends, Natalie and Shelby, and they remember everything in my life. And I remember nothing, which is so sad because I think I was always wanting to get to New York. I was always already gone.
Yeah.
That's
so it was less of like a contrarian spirit and more of like, I have this mission and this
goal,
vision
yes.
and this goal, and I'm laser focused on that.
It's dog with a bone.
Okay.
It's like, that's all I wanted. It's what I dreamed about. It was, and I mean, I was a Heights cheerleader. I had an amazing life outside of it, but I just knew that that's what I was meant to do my whole life.
Yeah.
And nothing could stop me.
And
Like, I
do
feel
you siblings?
2 brothers.
Older, younger?
2 younger brothers, but it's 4.5 and 6.5 years younger.
Okay.
So when you're a kid, that's a huge.
Yeah.
But it's so amazing because my brother played football for TCU, and my other brother went to Alabama, and they're like my best friends. That they got to live. They always said they grew up in the theater, It's like just watching me. And it's like by the time I left, so a lot of people don't know, they either know me or they know Jake and Charlie.
Okay.
Because of the age difference.
Yeah.
So, and I was just gone. I mean, it's like I knew that any camp I was doing, Camp Broadway, I was doing Interlochen. I was always away just wanting that goal. And then I went to Baldwin Wallace, which is one of the top musical theater schools in Ohio.
It's in Ohio. Okay.
And so I just left. I mean, I left as quick as we'll talk about this obviously, but I haven't been back here since I was 17. Like we didn't have a toll road. Fort Worth was a very different place.
Oh, it was way different.
Yes, when I left.
We had like Chili's downtown.
Yeah, oh my God, the best.
And
we had Barnes and Noble everywhere. I was like, now there's not even Barnes and Noble places.
Yeah.
So it's so wild.
What year did you graduate high school?
2011.
Okay.
No. I'm sorry, 2007. I graduated college in 11.
Okay.
So, yes, it was more like I wasn't trying to get away because I'm so grateful for everything.
Yeah,
that
just
Texas
laser focused on this.
Just laser focused.
And was it theater or was it acting in?
I think it was more theater. Like I wanted to be a true Broadway star.
Okay.
Which is so wild. So I'm so great. It's just like I was not always.
And was that weird to your friends? And like your
Oh yeah, but they thought it was so cool.
They did. Okay.
Like it was always just Sainty. What is Sainty doing now? And it was such a. I mean, all my friends say like Saintyisms. Like I'm just a very.
And were
different.
you big and loud? Like were you
very big
when
and
I think
loud.
when you think of Broadway, it's like,
totally
it's animated. It's in theater. You have to be comfortable on a stage. You have to be comfortable in front of people.
Totally.
Can't be afraid to sing. That's kind of vulnerable.
Yes, and I think that's a lot of the things that people say about me too. That meet Eric, they're like, oh, we didn't even know if Sainty was authentic because my personality is so big, and I'm always happy and always animated, and I go big or go home, and like. When I cheer to the max. But then, like, when I'm sad. Like, everything is extreme
all
emotions.
Highs and lows, yeah.
So it's like.
I always float right in the middle. Kind of. And so it's kind of this balance.
So it's perfect. Like, I always used to get mad. I'm like, Eric, yell back. Like, I just want you to yell. Yell at me. And it's like, I did not understand, like, because everything I did was big. So I've been like that, my whole life. God love my parents and my brothers.
Yeah.
They lived with it.
Were they, like, was your mom or dad, like, were they theater driven?
God, no.
No. So they just took you to Casa.
They just did,
and you
supported which I think that's why I lasted, because they didn't do, like, I didn't have them a stage mom at all. Like, she wasn't doing the research, and she went, you had all the, I wasn't.
But she said yes.
She said yes, and then I found it all myself.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think that's why I was able to last, because it's like I didn't have parents that were like on my fanny every second about what's the good classes and what. I was the one that found it all.
Okay.
And this is
it was your own choice.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that was, which is so hard for me now, which being the mom of kids, because now I'm like, oh, do you want to be an actor? Like, I'm like, I see myself being more stage mom that I'm like, I have to stop myself, because I think that's why I was able to pursue it, is because I didn't have parents like that. It was
your own, yeah.
It was my own.
Like with my kids, I'm like, you want to play guitar?
I know.
I can teach you how to play guitar.
It's so hard.
I bought them a guitar, and they're like, we're good.
Thanks, Dad.
We're good. And so you said you started acting at 13 professionally.
Yeah, yep.
Not just acting, but like, I'm getting paid to do it at 13.
Yeah, which, when you're a kid, it doesn't feel, you don't see it as a job. You don't see it as, this is a way of making a living and potentially something I'll do for the rest of my life. For me, it was just like this, we got an opportunity to move to Manhattan because my little brother got cast as Chip in Beauty and the Beast on Broadway.
Oh, wow.
And he was 6 years younger than I was.
Okay.
And so if it wasn't for him, we never would have been to New York.
And you grew up in Florida, is that correct?
Yep, South Florida.
Okay.
Mom ran retirement homes down there. Dad was a general contractor.
Mm-hmm.
Owned a little horse ranch out there, so grew up with horses and stuff.
Okay, hence we'll get into cowboy land here in a
yeah.
little bit. So grew up with horses.
Did grow up with horses,
in Florida.
But again, like both parents were so into them, and they like bought us horses and this whole thing, and wanted us the kids to ride so badly, and none of us did. It was one of those missed opportunities that now I wish I kicked myself for. But yeah, so got to go to New York. We were just going to.
Were you acting before that? Like,
so yeah,
why did you even? If your you were 13, he was.
He was 7.
So which means y'all had to have done some sort of acting and were trying out for things.
Yes.
So take me back. Like,
okay.
Even that in and of itself is interesting and kind of unusual.
Yeah, absolutely. So we would. my mom put us in, there was this dance studio locally in town that offered acting classes and singing classes and dance classes, of course. And so we started taking these classes at the studio.
Elementary school age, I'm assuming.
Yeah, elementary school age, elementary school age, I guess. We were doing all the sports, and my dad was, my coach of my ice hockey team because both my parents are from Minnesota. So as soon as we started walking, we were just like, all right, time to ice skate.
Ice hockey in Florida, though, is a little...
I know.
Not too many people do it.
So it's cool because, your dad was like a great player from Minnesota, and so we kind of like dominated the ice hockey scene in
no
South
one else
Florida.
knew how to play.
No,
We don't even know what ice is.
We're like skating circles around these kids. They're like, how do I hold this stick? So that was fun. But at some point, my older sister was in dance classes, and so we kind of grew up going to the studios, watching her recitals and stuff like that. And at some point, I just remember saying to my mom, hey, can I try out a class? So I started taking these tap classes.
Okay.
And it was really, really fun. I was like, oh, this is fun.
Tap dancing. Do you still tap dance?
I haven't in a while, but I did end up, tapping on Broadway, and I
You
taught.
tapped on Broadway?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like a ridiculous tapper.
Yeah.
And he could do like backflips, like tumbling and stuff too. I always got to brag because Eric's not like a.
I love that.
No, but
is
it's
something.
true. I'm always
That's
like his
something most
bragger.
people won't know. The cowboy
Who taps?
Can tap.
tap danced on Broadway
And flip-flop.
All right. Okay. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
No. It's good, man. It's good. It's fun to like think about this stuff again because it's been a while. So I started taking these classes, these tap classes. I started really liking it. The teachers are all like, oh my God, you're a natural. There's not many guys who do it, So they were like trying to do whatever they could to get me on like their competition team, and ultimately did. But they got me there because
A tap competition team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, with dance competition team, but my thing was tap. The studio did everything, but I focused on that. And they had these acting classes at the studio, and all the girls in my class, and the teacher was like, "You'd be really good, and try out the acting class." And so I did, and I was like, "Oh, this is what I want to do."
At what age was that?
Probably 10 or 11.
Okay. At 10 or 11,
Yep.
this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And at 3, this is what I want to do.
She was a senior citizen by the time I joined. She was already like smoking cigarettes in the back alley with like the older actors. Not really, but you know what I mean. And so got into it, started doing these competitions.
Acting competitions?
I would do triple threat. So I would tap, I would do a monologue, I would act, and I would also sing a song. And I just thought like, this is the way to... For me, it was really just fun, and I didn't expect this to lead to New York by any means, but it was a way for me to be creative. I really enjoyed the people I was in class with, and it was just fun. It was different. My brother was killing it in sports. My sister had her own thing going on. This was like my thing, separate from anyone else in my family.
And you're the middle child.
Yep.
And middle childs want their... Give me
Totally.
some...
Right.
Give me some space. I
Yeah.
want to be out of the shadows.
Exactly.
And so... You said your dad is a carpenter, is that right?
General contractor.
General contractor.
Yep.
And also runs a horse ranch?
Well, he was a professional polo player.
Okay.
And he trained thoroughbred polo horses most of his life. My grandfather trained reining horses. My mom showed dressage, the whole thing.
Wow. So what was his... I'm making stereotypes here, but what was his reaction to the contractor and his son is now like...
Oh, dude, it was like...
Was he supportive, or was he like, this is
No, it's the weirdest
unfamiliar?
thing to him. It was
Was it?
completely
Okay.
weird. He did not understand. He was like, what are you talking about?
Uh-huh.
He would literally... I'd have him, after hockey practice and games, I'd have him drop me off at the studio so I could go take an acting class and a tap class, and he literally, like, his head would always be like hanging down. Like, he just didn't get it. Not
Yeah.
his world.
Yeah.
I mean,
But he took you there. He paid for it.
Well, mom basically was the supportive one who did all that. And,
Yeah.
there were times when, dad would have no choice but to shuffle me along. But I felt kind of like Billy Elliot growing up a little bit. Like, dad wasn't into it. He's like this union worker and, whatever. But it worked out. And now he's like the most proud guy ever, because especially when I got on a Western like 1883, because that's his world. And now everywhere he goes, his friends are like, dude, your son's my favorite. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
And, the ladies at the little country store where he lives in Tallahassee, Florida, are sending him things to send to me. And like, I send them videos and whatnot. And it's just, I think, blown up into this thing that he never expected from the beginning.
Yeah, sure.
And he had never even seen a play in his life until I was on Broadway. And I made him come to New York to see it.
Until you're on
Crazy.
Broadway?
Yeah. Yeah.
His mom was like the one that, she stopped her whole life for
Okay.
Eric and his brother
Yeah.
and moved them to New York. She had ran a successful business
'Cause they divorced when I was young,
Yes.
but both still lived very close in Florida. And so both were still very much in my life. But mom was always the one that kind of took the front seat in terms of like the support and all of that sort of stuff, which was really cool.
This episode of Stories with Soul is brought to you by TCU Neely Institute for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. They're ranked as one of the top entrepreneurship programs in the country, and they live by the Neely promise to unleash human potential with leadership at the core and innovation in our spirit. The Institute has recently launched the Horned Frog Investment Network, which leverages the expertise and experience of entrepreneurs, business leaders, and investment professionals. They source, evaluate, and invest in the next generation of innovators. Crazy cool. And as an entrepreneur myself, I know the importance of finding great help. It can truly make or break your business. Luckily, as Fort Worth entrepreneurs, we have access to some of the top up-and-coming minds in the nation. If you're a business looking for talented students and interns, visit the Neely School of Business website to learn more about the Entrepreneurial Intern Scholars Program. They're actively looking for placements for their incredible students. They're doing amazing things, and it's exciting to see the next generation of entrepreneurs grow and flourish right here in our city. This episode is brought to you by my good friends at Visit Fort Worth. Visit Fort Worth is the official destination marketing organization of the 13th largest city, and I would say the greatest city in the United States, dedicated to promoting Fort Worth as a premier business and leisure destination with thriving centers of creativity, culture, and commerce. Visit Fort Worth is the parent organization of the Fort Worth Herd, the Fort Worth Film Commission, Fort Worth Sports Commission, Visita Fort Worth, and Music Initiative Here Fort Worth. They are doing a lot of amazing things. For more information on Visit Fort Worth, head over to visitfortworth.com and follow them on social at Visit Fort Worth. This episode is sponsored by the Fort Worth Business Press. As a Fort Worth entrepreneur and small business owner, the Business Press is my favorite source for news and updates about the entrepreneurial community in and around Fort Worth. I read their email newsletter literally every day. It's always full of insights and stories that really matter. Are you ready to be more connected? Sign up for their free newsletter at fortworthbusinesspress.com. But if you're like me and the newsletter just isn't enough, you can become an insider. With the code STORYTELLING10, all one word, you'll get a discount on the insider membership. Insiders receive exclusive access to special content, 24 issues of the Business Press delivered to your door each year, and discounts on event registrations and more. Join me and the Fort Worth Business Press in staying up to date on the people, companies, and issues that matter most to Fort Worth. There's one thing I've found, like in all the conversations I've had with artists and entrepreneurs, is like there's something about having parents that support you in chasing your dreams. Like that has been a common theme.
Yeah.
And almost everyone, like, and sometimes they didn't always agree with it, but they supported them. And some people didn't have that, but I would say most of the time there's some like support, chase your dreams. I know for me, like my parents didn't have any grasp on. They're like, go to business school.
Totally.
Right.
But they allowed us to go to chase our dreams. So anyways, not to interrupt, but I just think that's an interesting thing, especially for you guys. We're parents of young kids.
Yeah.
And it's like, I want to foster that. Like, I would love it if they play guitar and like the things I like, but I'm also like, I want to support them in whatever that is, even if it's not my thing.
Completely. And I think it's especially hard too as a parent is like the boundaries of it all. I mean, I have like I said, a 1 and 3-year-old. So it's like, I'm not even in the thick of it yet, but it's like, you know, the world and you want to protect them so much from certain things. Like obviously acting is one of the hardest businesses. It doesn't matter how hard you work. Doesn't mean you'll make it or not. Yeah. And so it's like, why would you want your child they work their fanny off, they still couldn't make it instead of, you know, maybe in something business where it's you work your way up.
Go be a lawyer. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you understand Stability. It's like the riskiest thing as a parent to be like, I'm just going to throw you out there and I'll just catch you if you fall.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think it's very interesting that you would see that because I think the parents that are supportive, we're allowed to take risk because we know we have that net. Doesn't matter if it's a financial net or a emotional net. You have someone to catch you. Yeah. Whether it not even be a parent, but somebody supporting you, it's a game changer.
It is. It
because
totally
you
is.
can take the risk and be like, well, if I mess up, that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, at least I tried.
Yeah. That's cool. And that's like, goals as a parent. So you're doing these competitions, things are going well.
Yeah.
And so and your brother starts doing it too?
My brother starts doing it too. Okay. Now, he was born truly gifted, like born with perfect pitch.
Oh, yeah.
So, and from a young age, we figured that out. He was the youngest kid ever to sing the national anthem at a Major League Baseball game at 2 years old. And
At two?
At 2. That's what I said.
What?
Yeah, full out. We
No,
have
and
the
when you meet
video.
him, you'll get it.
It's so
How
great.
do you even
He's a prodigy.
how'd they find him to
I mean,
as a 2-year-old?
as a 2-year-old.
I can't fathom that.
I
No,
know.
I didn't either. I like triple checked when Eric told me that. I was like, yes.
Yep.
And then I was like, oh, I saw the mom and I saw the video and I was like, okay, touche.
So he's following in your footsteps and
Yeah,
He's
but it
kind of
was-
leading the way.
He's kind of leading in a way. The dancing thing was mine. That was like my strength. Then he started taking the classes, and then he was naturally, they picked up on his musical ability and his singing ability. And, he could barely say the words, but knew every word, every note perfectly. And we had a guitar teacher come over to the house one day, and he was tuning his guitar. And Matt was like, oh, that string's off. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, well, that's supposed to be a G. And he's like 3 or whatever.
Crazy.
And he plays it on the piano. He's like, it's supposed to be this note. He's like, you're right. It is supposed to be that note. And he like untuned another one. He's like, what is this? He's like, that's not right either. It's supposed to be this note. And so he's like, oh, you have perfect pitch.
no way.
Yeah. And so then he just, once we figured that out, my mom just like harvested that and, let him lean into that gift, which is truly something, as you know, you're only born with. And he just took off. And so he started singing. Then he came to one of my competitions, and he entered in the triple threat category. And there happened to be one of the judges was a manager from New York City, and she was like, hey, they're casting Chip in Beauty and the Beast. Your brother would be perfect. Or your son, she's saying this to my mom, your son would be perfect. Would you guys be interested if we flew you up for him to audition? And this was so far-fetched. We're like, auditioning for a Broadway show, you've got to be kidding me. Never had anyone in our family. We had, like, our cousin Tess, who she was friends with, who mentioned earlier, was an actress. But again, living in Florida, nobody had done Broadway or anything like that. Long story short, they fly us to New York. He auditions for Broadway. He gets the job.
On Broadway.
On Broadway.
And people
As Chip.
spend years
Their
and
whole
years
lives.
and years
Yeah.
and years
Yes.
off Broadway and trying to work your way up.
I know. It was.
Wait, so
and
how
he's
old was
little-
he?
7.
That's so
Wild.
crazy.
Yep.
And so your mom relocates
My
the
mom,
whole
who
family.
has a successful business in Florida that she's put her heart and soul into for years.
Did she
and
close
built
Did
herself.
she close it down?
She
Or she
sold
sold it?
Yeah, not at first. She's like, okay, they want to sign you in 6-month contracts. So they sign up for 6 months. So we knew we were going to go to New York for 6 months, try this out, and then go home. Well, 6 months comes to an end. They want to renew his contract
And
for
did
another.
you start going? Did you enroll in school? And
Yeah, so there's a school in Manhattan which the movie Fame was based off of,
Okay.
Professional Performing Arts School. It's where,
So you get into an art school.
I auditioned. It's like a rigorous audition process. Never thought I'd get in. Very small classes. I got in.
Okay.
And I was like, oh my God, while he's doing the show, I get to go to this insane school, which feels like a college. You have a major, you get musical theater classes throughout, between math and science, you get to go do acting.
Wow.
And between these two, you're going to go take your dance class.
Wasn't Sarah Hyland and all, like, the big wigs
Oh,
were
I
all in
mean-
his class.
Okay.
Yeah, every child actor who was working in New York went to this school if they were in a school and not homeschooled.
Yeah.
Because they supplied you tutors when you were on set and everything, and it was just catered to working children.
Yeah.
And I was the only one who had never worked on Broadway or in huge blockbuster movies or on television. And so, as you can imagine, when most people, you see like celebrities out on the street or something, I was in class with like a group of celebrities. As a 13-year-old skater from Florida, I was like,
Yeah.
where am I? How is this happening?
And were you did you feel like you fit in, or did you feel
Oh, I felt like they thought I was the cool kid, and I was like, no,
Because
you guys are the cool
they thought
kids.
you were the cool kid because you're just like
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was like, I had much longer hair even then, and
Okay.
I was just like this skater kid who like didn't know that this world was even serious.
Uh-huh.
And they were all like, all right, I'm leaving at 1 today because I'm going to, go film my 12th episode of the season, and, I'll be back tomorrow morning, whatever. I was like, this is the craziest thing.
So like fate, literally, or
Yeah.
God, just
Fate,
like
yes.
launched you into this world.
yeah.
Fate
And
and,
it was
like an
really-
amazing mom.
Yeah.
That just like truly
Who-
gave up.
Who a door opened and she walked through it.
Yeah. And
That's
she
cool.
asked us every step of the way. She's like, are you sure this is something you want to do? Da, 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 da. And so when his 6 months were up at Beauty and the Beast, they wanted to sign him for another 6 months. So at this point, all of our friends and family think we're coming back. And we're like, well, Matt, do you want to do this for another 6 months? And Matt's like, 100%. She's like, Eric, do you want to do this for another 6 months? I was like, I never want to leave.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay.
And what's she doing for money? How is she paying for this? Because it's expensive to live in New York.
Totally.
It's very expensive. And so she made the decision. She's like, I'm going to sell my businesses and we'll do this. If this is really what you want to do, let's go for it. And at that time, every agent in New York was telling my mom they need to be here. You know, they're going to have careers. They saw it right away. My school was saying the same thing. And so my mom was like, wow, this could be something.
And the school's saying you're good.
Yeah. Amongst these like kids that have been doing it their whole lives, like Sainty. And
Not to that level.
it was the top level for sure. Had you been in New York and had those opportunities, it would have been your level. But granted, so she sells the businesses. She's like, okay, we're doing this thing. And we just never left. 6 months turned into 11 years.
Yeah.
And
So you grew up in New York.
grew up in New
Truly-
York.
In the Broadway theater acting world.
Yep.
That's wild.
I know.
That's a
Wild.
wild world.
It really was. So then by the time I was 16,
And you're skateboarding around the streets of New York, which that. in
Oh my
itself
God.
is-
And like
well, there's no cars, you
Yeah.
know? No one has cars there. So that was like my car. That was like my, you
and
know.
moved to LA by yourself, right? At like 16.
Well, so
We
I-
lived just very opposite lives in every sense of like once you moved to New York, it was just very opposite.
It was crazy. And I'll never forget my mom. At one point, she'd have to drop off my brother at he was now in Mary Poppins on Broadway. He was like the boy in that. Would drop him off, would then see that I got to the theater on Broadway, would go pick him up, and then pick me up. And
So
then
you
we'd
were doing Broadway stuff. When did you get on?
16 is when I booked a show that we did the out of town run of, and then it was on Broadway by the time I was 17.
And
what,
tell him the
what
cat.
show was that?
You have to
It's called
show.
13, the
13.
musical.
And you were
it was-
traveling. You were doing.
So we did, I did an out of town run of it.
Okay.
Before it got to New York, it went to Goodspeed in Connecticut to make sure, is this ready for Broadway? And then they were like, yes, it is.
And
so
then you were on Broadway at 16.
then I was on Broadway.
With Ariana Grande, Elizabeth Gillies, Graham, what's his last? I should know.
Phillips.
Graham Phillip. I mean, the cast is like,
No way.
Yeah, that was
Star.
Ari's first like big
Wow. And did she
show.
have the pipes then?
Oh, yeah.
Her voice is so.
But she
It's
was just one of,
insane.
I mean,
Crazy.
she understudied the lead girl, but was the ensemble in our show.
Okay.
And she was just like this little girl from South
so
Florida.
you sing.
I do.
You still
he's
sing?
an amazing singer.
Yeah, I didn't choose that path. It's not like where I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
But it's there,
Uh-huh.
and I get to sing. I just booked a cool movie where I get to play a rock star, and I'll get to sing a bunch in that. I can't say too much about it yet, but we'll be
Is
shooting.
this from the
gonna be really
Instagram photo shoot stuff?
Yes.
The
No.
no.
Not that.
one. No.
Not the story. Yeah, different.
Okay.
No. But
I
it's
feel
cool
like
because
we're
I
the
randomly just got
secret
like
keepers.
a couple.
Secret keepers.
It's it's so wild.
So you're gonna play a rock star?
Get to play rock star.
Is it like a biopic?
Not
A fictional rock star or like a?
No, this one, the one I'm talking about right now is
Okay.
is completely made up, so to
Oh,
speak.
okay.
But the director, Michael Garcia, is this epic musical video director. He did everything from Machine Gun Kelly's Bloody Valentine video to you name it. He's
So
really,
you're gonna sing?
yeah, I'm gonna sing and play electric.
Cool.
Yeah, I've got 4 songs in the movie,
No
which
way.
I'm pretty pumped about.
You wrote the songs?
No, they
Okay,
did
they
all
wrote
that
and they're
stuff.
amazing.
Yeah.
Are
They're
they cool
such-
songs?
No, I have a little side story about this. This is when you know you need to like never make enemies in life. So Eric's co-star Elizabeth Gillies and Eric are dating all of 13 while they're on Broadway.
Okay, real life dating.
In real life
okay,
dating.
Okay.
She was the lead.
Just
she
Google
was-
their
yeah.
names.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's
You'll
the
see
lead on
them everywhere.
Dynasty, the CW show right now. She's
Okay.
been the lead on that and a bunch of other stuff.
So we're together. I auditioned for my first pilot, and it's called Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll.
Uh-huh.
And it's to be Dennis Leary, to be the lead girl's best friend. So I auditioned, and the casting director, Ross Meyerson, who we are still in love with today, goes, "Do you realize your best friend?" We're the only 2 young people on the show.
Mhm.
No offense to ever, like, that play the
Yeah.
young crew, is going to be Elizabeth Gillies, Eric's ex-girlfriend.
And you knew that was his ex-girlfriend.
And I knew that, and I was like,
Yeah.
what? So Eric would come home, and Liz and I are just like sitting in my house because we
Hanging
became
out.
best
Was
friends.
that weird?
Yes.
Oh my God. But I
was
loved
so
it. I was
weird.
like, he had great taste, and we couldn't be like more opposite. So I was
True.
like, it's the kind we fit like so great as great friends. So I always just giggled. I'm always like, I never even thought of it like oh my God, that's like his ex-girlfriend.
That's all I thought of it as.
Yes. And
Yeah,
I was like, it
boy.
was so
Yeah.
wild. So a little side note,
Yeah.
never make enemies because you never know.
Even with your exes.
Even with your,
exes.
I know. So it's so wild. So,
So wind up on this Broadway show.
yeah.
Mhm.
And did that for...
Did that, was with the show for about a
Were
year.
you still doing the school stuff?
So at that point, I had left PPAS.
Your
and-
homeschool.
And am now finishing up high school online. Just
Okay.
because between our rehearsal schedules
Yeah.
and all of that, none of us could go to school.
That's intense, giant. And at night, you're up late at night performing.
Oh yeah. You're not home till like 11:30 each night. And so there was no way school was going to happen. So it took me 2.5 years longer than it should have to even finish high school.
Mm-hmm.
I met him. He was still in high school.
I'm pretty sure. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure I was still in high school when you met me.
So I was a college graduate. Didn't know. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I could have just got it done, but once I started working, it just kind of didn't stop.
This is what you wanted to do.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And so my family members were like, "So you're going to go to college?" I was like, "I literally would only go to do what I'm doing right now."
Yeah, why would you go if this
There
is
was no
what-
point. Yeah. We
there's
went
no
to college to get where he was.
Mm-hmm.
Which is so interesting because I thought like going to college and all of that to train, it's like I felt behind once I moved to New York because it's like all these kids had grown up there and worked their whole
Doing it,
life.
yeah.
And you thought coming from like a top school, like you're coming in as the big dogs.
Yeah.
And it's like we came in, it's like, oh my God, we're almost too late.
Yeah.
Like these kids have
His brother's been doing it since he was
forever.
7.
It's how do you even?
Yeah, I'm a fan of college. I didn't graduate, but I went to TC for
Totally.
but I'm also like anti-college if my kids want to go
Dude, I
start
completely
it
agree.
sooner. Go chase your thing.
Because you really see it's like, I mean, even though I did 4 years of like rigorous training, it's like I was behind by the time
Yeah.
I got there. Because it's like these kids had done it forever.
And so, you leaving Fort Worth, like was that like so you go to Ohio in this prestigious,
Yes, but
Theater-driven school.
teeny tiny town.
and I'm assuming there's very like few people from the South and Texas, and was that like a hard transition? Was it? And even here with your friends, was everyone else is going to UT and TCU
Totally.
and Baylor
Shockingly, it was amazing. Like I wish I like had like a
still
horror
just laser
story.
focused.
I was so happy. Well, minus I get there and they
You
don't have
had
AC.
other people that are just like you.
Yeah, and there was only 11 people in my class.
Whoa, super small.
So it's super small. So it's like all of us knew we were there for a reason.
Yeah, you
My
found your
class
people.
was amazing. So we kind of called us like the underdogs. So the class above us was like musical theater, and and we were kind of like, our best friend Rod was the quarterback of his high school football team. Like I'd come from cheerleader. So we were all kind of had other things in our life besides theater.
yeah.
So it was kind of cool that we were just living our lives. They never really looked at us. So we kind of got to come in as like these underdogs,
Yeah.
which all of us have been successful in such different areas now because of it, because we didn't have that pressure.
Yeah.
So it's like I really dig it, but I get there, I'm sorry, as I was saying, and they didn't have air conditioning. When it's like my friends at
Oh,
TCU
yeah.
have like, dry cleaning and,
There
we
was
didn't
no
have like
air conditioning.
no AC. You weren't allowed to have a car your freshman year.
And it's freezing in the winter.
Free and hotter than hell
Is this in the classrooms or in your
in our dorms.
Okay. So you're sleeping like,
No, or sleeping hotter than hell.
oh God.
So it was horrible. So like that's the part that
They
was
had
like
heat.
such.
They had heat. Just know.
Yeah, it was like a culture shock. That's
Yeah.
the part that I was like, oh my. And it really snowed from October to May.
Yeah, it's cold in Ohio.
So that was very different. But to be able to do what I loved every day, oh my God, like
You were in heaven.
I was truly in the happiest. But I never got cast as like one of the leads in the musical, which is so interesting. Going back now, I teach master classes for them.
Oh, you do?
So
Okay.
I'm like, it's so cool to be like, that's what I always tell. I help the seniors. And I'm like, who cares? Like, if you're the lead right now, I mean, doesn't mean you're not going to have 3 Emmys and
Yeah.
a Tony later on.
Yeah.
So it's like,
And be the youngest producer. female,
but it's
yeah,
so, it's like, it sounds so silly, but it's like always, I was never quite enough.
You got to put in the work.
Yeah. And I've always had to put in, like, I wish, we always giggle that I think Eric's brother has such a natural ability.
Mm-hmm.
Eric and I always feel like ours didn't come natural.
Yeah.
We always had to work like extra hard. But I think a lot of the time I'm always like, oh, I wish I had that natural. Like, where would I be now? But I think that because we didn't have that natural ability, that we've gotten the success where we are now because we've had to hustle our fannies off
And
for it.
ability only takes you so
So
far.
totally.
And a lot of times people with the ability peter out because they're so
used to just it be given to them.
Yeah, and where when you have to work for it, when you have to like earn it, like when you have there's a book I actually just read it called, I think it's called The Growth Mindset or The Mindset. It's by this neuroscience I think a Stanford professor, but it's all about putting in the work and putting it like having a mindset where when you fail, it doesn't mean you're not smart. When you fail, it doesn't mean you're not good. Ability doesn't matter. What matters is putting in the work. And it's the thing I've been trying to like teach my kids. Like Rosie she made who's my 6-year-old, 7-year-old. She had a bad grade on her spelling test. And I was like, you see this? What does this mean? What does it mean when you have like a bad grade? And I was like, does it mean you're not smart? And I was like, no, it doesn't mean you're not smart. It means this is a chance to work harder. And so, but that to your point, it's reiterating what I just read in this book and what I'm trying to teach my kids is like when you fail, you just got to work hard. It's like you got to practice. Practice is it, not ability. And
it's so true. Like the people in my class that got the very best agents, because we do this thing called a showcase, are all not in the business anymore.
Yeah.
And like the head of our program had to beg an agency to sign me. And I was the first one to come out swinging with a contract because I did Dory and Finding Nemo, the musical. Mm-hmm. So it's like that's the part where it's so true. It's like hard work and that's all that matters. And I always, like I had a fake publicist and I would write from her so bad. So if you see those past emails,
I pretended to be a fake booking agent before.
No, it's so true.
Where I made up a booking agent email account.
You had to hustle it out. Yeah. And I was like, that's I think that we have so much in common is the hustle between us and the teamwork. Oh my gosh. We are such a team with everything.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about, we'll take a little divergence from the story, but like your relationship and how it works. Because I think the unusual and the hard thing about what you do is when you're on the clock or on the job, you're on. It's not 9 to 5. You're like, they're gone. Like you were just traveling and like you're traveling or you're gone. It's a 24/7 thing. And so there's got to be some, support there. And like, what is that? And traveling, communication is harder,
Oh yeah.
Kids talk about just your relationship dynamic in the context of what makes it special and also maybe some advice or things that you've learned along the way.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like easy too. I hate when because we always look so sunny and
we're still trying to figure it out.
Oh,
yeah. We're all trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
totally.
We just now have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And so the pandemic hits, we have our second child, get 1883, which was a blessing because I filmed most of it. I got to sleep in my own bed the whole time. Yeah. So we still didn't really have to figure out how we're going to juggle the 2 kids while I'm gone thing. And now we're just figuring all that stuff out.
Let's go back. I was like, and that makes it look really easy. Good. No, when I first met Eric, he was doing All My Children. Okay. So I'm from the South. So remember my mom seeing that girl at lunch. Well, Eric's now on All My Children, kissing madly in love, not in real life, but on the show with this girl. I couldn't take it. Like
the blonde girl from the restaurant?
No, a different girl. Okay. His co-star.
Girl. Okay.
She was a soap star too.
Okay.
But I did not get it. Like I was like, he's going to work to cheat on me. Like just truly. So my parents, they're great about flying up and helping me. They flew up and they were like, get a grip. You're either going to lose him or, so I started talking.
This became a fight in your relationship.
100%. Because I wasn't used to that.
So much so that I walked into the network's office and told him, I was like, unless you change the script writing right now, I don't know if I can keep doing this.
Oh, really? What did they say to that?
They were like, how would she feel if we made your character gay? Kid you not. I go back home and I'm like, honey, I went in because I don't like what this is doing to our relationship and I want to make sure that, this comes first before any career at this point.
That was big of you to one, to say that, and then 2, to...
Totally.
I was nervous as shit. I was like, oh, they're going to fire me. Mm-hmm. And they weren't. They thought about it and, they completely heard what I had to say. And they're like, would she be okay if you were gay on the show? So I was like, babe, this might be a win-lose situation here.
I was like, hell yes.
And I was like, what do you feel about this? She was like, oh, why would I ever stress about that? Because I know that's, not the case, whatever. And I was like, all right. So I went back into their office. I told them, I was like, well, where my comfort levels are just from the boy-girl situation. Now consider where my comfort levels would be for
It was just
this
no sex.
situation.
I didn't want to see him because it's a soap. That was like the big thing is I was like, I don't want, and we still talk about this now, is remember if we do want, this is at the time we want children, I don't want them Googling your name and seeing your wiener. Like,
Which I never would have done ever.
But even like 18.
First and foremost.
No, but it's so true. Like, because at the time they're big stuff. And I always said, because this was before now there's so many streamings, I was like, unless it's HBO or you're winning an Academy Award. And I was like, because then if they make fun of our kids, well, they'll be like, well, look at his Academy Award. You know what I mean? So it's like, that was... So
the show got canceled before the gay
before
season
they
started,
went on.
by the way. So that never played out.
They were going to change.
They were going to change,
rewrite
and it was
the
going to be
whole thing.
amazing, though.
Well, because they were like, oh, that'll be a great Emmy storyline. That would.
But this is the conflict that, like, when your spouse, like, that's a legit. You know, cognitively, this is a for the sake of the show and the art, but also like that's hard. It's your husband, your boyfriend kissing,
and I had to get a grip. Like I really needed to grow up. I mean, mind you, I'm 23 at this point. From the South, used to musical theater, which is like, you kiss and all, but you're not a soap.
Yeah.
So it's like I had to really grow up and learn. And so we get out of this. Well, And
you were on the soap you were on that for a long time.
Yeah,
year and a half?
Yeah, I think there was like 54 episodes or something that I did.
And that's somewhat 9 to 5, right? Like
that. Oh yeah, that is
even more so.
That world is 9 to 5.
Yeah, and it was more so because I had to travel to Connecticut every day to film. So they'd pick me up
doing it in Connecticut?
4 a.m., drive us out to Connecticut, film all day in Connecticut, and then drive us all the way back at night. So I would be, before she woke up, I was gone.
Yeah.
And when she was in bed already sleeping, I got home.
And he was losing all this weight for a movie. So he was a little grouchy because he was starving himself.
Okay.
So it's like minus that was on the side too. So it was like just all of a sudden my partner, which we lived like hermits. We like would stay inside, we giggle, everyone. We both got so chunky dunky when we first met because we would just hibernate and eat and like love. So now all of a sudden my man is gone and so skinny and kissing a girl. Like it was such a...
And were you in a production at the time?
So I'm then down in Florida doing Finding Nemo.
Okay.
So it's just like it's truly a growing up. We're kids.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like all of a sudden it's
kids
our big
juggling with
life
and the logistics of it.
Totally. And kids in a relationship. All of a sudden it's like, oh wow, we can't just like hide from the world.
Yeah.
Because that's what we did. We hid from everything and we're together 24/7.
And conflict is difficult when you're not there. So my first year of marriage, I was gone like 300 days, and it's one thing when you have a fight and you can just like put your arm around the other person,
Totally.
You're present. But it's another thing when you have a fight and you're like on a phone, like communication is much harder.
And you can say a lot more when you're on the phone instead of looking somebody in the eyes.
Yeah.
Like you can kind of let it all out and stuff you don't mean because you don't have to see that.
Yeah, it forces you to learn to communicate
totally
better, but it's still hard. It's still freaking hard.
And for what we do too, it's hard not to let emotions carry into your work environment. And then you're in your head when
like
you're
if you have a bad day and
or-
you're thinking about that.
Totally.
Yeah, so that can all play a factor into how your workday is going to go. You can't just escape at the computer in your office. You're pretending to be really happy in the scene when something 5 minutes ago really kind of threw you mentally off.
Yeah.
It's learning how to juggle all that.
Yeah.
Compartmentalize a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
And I have to give a compliment to Eric because I bet like nobody knows this really from 1883. So I had a really tough pregnancy, have the baby, and he is horribly sick. So I am by myself most days with this horribly sick little boy and a toddler.
So you had the baby while you were filming.
So Eric went to film the next day.
The next day after you had the baby?
Yeah, because this is my second baby. So I was like, go get it.
I told them too. I was
Whoa.
like, they knew she was pregnant, and the running joke on set was that I was going to have to run to the hospital. Like she would go in labor in the middle of a scene, so I'd show up in the 1883 gear at the hospital.
Oh, you would?
With
No,
like
they
the
literally
gun
got
belt, the
permission.
hat, the whole thing. I was like, well, yeah. I'm not
They're
gonna-
like he's a Six Flags character.
Totally.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't happen that
And
way.
meanwhile, no
unfortunately.
one knows he's filming. That's the craziest part too. And I'm not allowed to legally tell everybody.
There's like NDAs and
So
stuff.
my parents, yes. So my parents are the only ones that know. We have to like not be around anybody because of isolation.
Oh,
because
and it's
of-
COVID.
And
It's
COVID.
Okay.
So minus our son is born and I have this horribly sick child. So Eric is like, poor thing. Everyone's thinking I have postpartum depression, which is thankfully this wasn't the case, but everybody thought that because I was like, something is wrong with this kid. Like I'm not crazy. Like I truly was I mean, I hate almost even suicidal in the sense of I was done. I was like, I cannot do this. Something is wrong with this child.
Because he was crying, or
crying
he wasn't
all
eating,
the time, wasn't eating. I was waking up every hour to feed him.
Yeah.
And I had help.
Yeah.
So it's I can't imagine these incredible moms.
Yeah.
After this, I was like, single moms deserve everything, or single parents, because I had help. I had an incredible parent. I had everybody helping me under the sun, and it didn't matter.
Yeah.
It's in my mind, I was like,
because he was sick?
he's sick. Something is wrong with this kid. And Eric is in the thick of filming. So God love him. He has to go, the biggest opportunity of his life. And his wife is falling apart. My toddler's falling apart because the mom's falling apart. And all of a sudden, her life has been rocked because daddy's gone.
Yeah.
I have a sick baby. And mom can't get a grip.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's it was such a hard, the fact that Eric was able to give that performance and what was going on at home.
And you're probably feeling this giant weight of stress.
Yeah.
And guilt of man,
I know. And it really was so heavy. But at the same token, it was such a blessing from God that I didn't film this in Arizona.
Totally.
Or New Mexico or somewhere else. I got to come home.
Mm-hmm.
And so I at least felt like I was a part of what was happening, even though I still felt so disconnected because of scheduling.
And thank God for it, because I was imagine having both parents in the thick of it too.
Yeah.
He was able to have a break so he could come home. And when I'm having a nervous breakdown, he could stay strong because he got to get away.
Yeah.
So it was it really was, as much as I would have liked him there, I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Because it was he was able to stay strong for us.
Yeah. That's incredible.
And he was we giggle with another thing. He was just gone shooting 2 movies and he was gone for 2 months. Our son went to the ICU with RSV, a step above. This is our sweet Mickey. It's always going to be our Mickey. He keeps us on our toes. But it was because of that experience, I was like, Eric, if you show up at this ICU, I'm going to be pissed because we have worked too hard. Because he was doing another thing. If you watch the Yellowstone premiere in New York City, Eric's doing the interviews. Well, no one knew that his child's in the ICU on an 18 high flow, a step above the ventilator with pneumonia. But I was like,
oh my gosh,
we have both worked too hard for it.
Yeah.
If you show up, everything that we have done, I've got this.
Yeah.
And I think that was the cool part because of the 1883 experience. I was like, I'm okay. And we had the nurses were going to call if it started to go, we had a whole game plan to cook.
Yeah.
Thank God.
And I had told them, because I was shooting a movie in Houston or El Paso at that time.
Yeah.
They allowed me the day off to fly to New York to host the Yellowstone Season 5 premiere. And I find this out right before I'm about to leave for New York. And so I've got both productions on standby, which, they're pouring millions of dollars into these things. One day of not working for is so much money down the drain.
Because the whole staff and production.
Everything's done.
And so it's a huge deal. But I tell a couple of the Paramount people, I'm like, this is a situation. If it escalates,
I got to get on a
figure
flight.
out a backup plan because there's no way I can't not be there. Tell the movie in El Paso, one guy, because I didn't want it to spread around and then everybody's, talking about it. To me, that's too much pressure. And so I'm like, both these people kind of know what's going on. Here I am. Now I'm traveling to New York the whole time, just getting updates. Finally get there. All right, he's okay? Oh, yep, go do the interviews. So then I go to the red carpet, do all the hosting, go right back to the airport, 4 a.m., get on a flight. Meanwhile, the entire time, I'm just please tell me he's
and
getting better.
El Paso is not an easy place to get to. So it's all these layovers.
Oh, yeah. Nightmare. And so luckily, after day 3, they're like, okay, we're going to release him to go home.
No, day 3, day 5.
You were in the hospital for 5
I was
days.
But
guys, this is so stressful.
Y'all, it's so
that's so much. But I think it's the trust. You're I trust you. I support you. There's a lot of sacrifice there. There's a lot of
on both ends.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And I was saying our son was sick during 18. He had pyloric stenosis, which I now had no idea what that was.
What is that?
It's basically a blockage in front of your esophagus.
So you're starving yourself to death.
Food isn't entering. That's why he was spitting everything up. So it'd literally go in, pull up right by the blockage in the esophagus, and he would just spit it all back out. So nothing was entering. From 2 months to 3 months, he went from
3 months to 4 months because he got it at 3 months old.
For his checkup, he went from being in the like 80th percentile or whatever to the below 0.
Yeah.
And they're like, something's really,
he
really
lost a
wrong.
lot of weight.
Oh, and he looked very ill. But we all thought, like, Eric, no offense, is more on the petiter side. We were like, oh, he just takes after his daddy's more. I'm 5'2".
Yeah.
So we really just didn't, and he wasn't spitting across the room. So it's like, that's why all the keys weren't, and we were feeding him 24/7. Usually they lose weight a lot quicker than that. Well, we were just feeding him anything to get, they said once I checked him in that he was like 2 weeks away from having like a heart attack and not being able to, because he was truly
deteriorating.
Deteriorate.
To this day, if you look at the tip of his tongue, there's like it almost like indents in. They said sometimes with kids with malnutrition when they're growing up, the tongue doesn't form all the way.
Wow.
And so like he has like little things like that like remind us like, oh my God, you really were so close. And we had no idea. People were just saying it was acid reflux or it was
postpartum depression with a more difficult child.
He's fine. These things happen. Yeah. Eventually, maybe he's lactose intolerant. And that's why he's spitting it up. Tried different milks.
Different medicines.
Nothing worked. And finally, he gets a scan at the hospital after our doctor was like, all right, he's below 0 percentile. Something's not right.
And our friend J-Max Slaughter.
J-Max Slaughter made sure we got right in, took care of us, did a scan. They were like, pyloric stenosis, surgery, removed it the very next day, normal.
Wow.
And now he's like off the charts in percentile.
Oh,
he's
huge.
a full football
thriving.
player.
Yeah.
He's the biggest thing you'll ever see.
But he's one of the guys, he just got sick.
Oh, yeah, he was just, so it's always our Mick. Like I said, it was like, it's always our McMahon. And it's like, you really do. The thing I've learned so much, especially during these COVID times, is you got to give people a little grace.
Everybody has something they're going through.
Something, and it's like, you look at our Instagrams right now and everything looks perfect.
Yeah,
and you would have looked at the
it's the highlight
pictures.
reel.
Look, because I don't like to share with anybody. Even my best friends are like, we had no idea. And I'm like, I like to get through the storm and then I'll share. So usually like nobody, his mom knows that about me. I'm like, do not text his family until we are out of the hospital. Or like I am just very, which is so weird because I'm not a private person.
Do you not like asking for help or you just don't like?
I think because it becomes reality.
Okay.
If I'm experiencing something, then I'm like, oh my God, this is real. Like this is.
She goes into like fight or flight mode.
Yes.
Like, somehow let's just get through this and do our thing. And the minute it's done, we can then bring other people into this.
Yeah.
Which is the drive thing.
Totally.
I am the solution to the problem. I'm going to go crush whatever that beat a sick child, whatever it is.
Yeah. And my mom called my best friend when Mick was headed to the ICU because, of course, both my parents are out of town. So I'm like, I am by myself. She calls
I'm gone.
And Eric's gone.
No.
Calls my best friend and I give her my phone. And I'm just like, here. Like, I don't want to. We have 15 doctors in the room. They're saying if we would have waited, it just could another situation gone south, expected to get on the ventilator. And I'm like, and I always say that's the key to the ICU is have your best friend with you. Because it's like, it's not two emotional parents. It's like somebody can be a little distant and I will thank her. We both will owe my Shelby for that time forever because of it. I got to just focus on my child and poor Eric. I think he had the hardest situation because I was like, everybody else is being taken care of. And I am in the zone with my boy and we got this.
Yeah.
And we are going to rock and roll.
What a testament to y'all's relationship. I think it's cool hearing how that works. I'm curious. Two things. One is we scratched at it a second ago about just your acting style. You're like when I go all into this, I go into that character. So I'm curious what that looks like compounded with because I'm assuming they relate. Compounded with like when stressful things are happening, how do you handle it? I don't know if they relate at all. Like if you're like, I go so into the character, I can stop thinking about it, or I manage stress because I meditate. Like, I don't know. So I'm asking two things. Is one sort of your acting style, and does that also affect how you handle these super intense, hard things that are thrown your way?
It is funny because oftentimes if we're going through something difficult or something, and I'm like, stressing out about it. She's like, stop. You know what you'll do. You could just use this. I know how you work, Eric. You're going to use this frustration and this like insecurity and it's going to play perfectly into this part because X, Y, and Z. And she's always right. Like I think that's how I handle it is I'll just use it in places where it can benefit me.
You tap into that
100%,
emotion.
100%. And so, you're not always going to be when I'm hosting a red carpet and one of the most stressful things is happening, I can't really use that emotion.
Yeah.
You know, so that's just one of those things where you truly have to just tune, white noise everything, and just know that I have to give an hour and a half of my time to this one thing, and then life will resume. It's almost like a freeze frame.
Okay.
And I'm just living in this fake moment for an hour or two, and then, everything will resume motion again. And that's just, I think, how I have to mentally, or how I have recently been able to get through it.
And when you get into a character, what do you do? Like, is it method acting at all? Like, is there a little level like where or is it I just hit the switch and I go? Like, do you bring that home too? Like, is the reverse happen?
I'll be interested to see what he says and then what I say.
Yeah.
Different, it's not always, I feel, the same technique for me in every project. But if it's something that's out of my level of, not necessarily comfort, but out of my norm, I do need to immerse myself a little bit. I'm not Jared Leto on set sending dead rats to people because I'm playing the Joker. Like, I keep it to myself and obviously my household, but I need to mentally and emotionally
become that character.
Become that world. Yeah.
We definitely morph.
Yeah. I mean, I'm wearing a buckle that I just won the other night at the celebrity cutting event.
Oh, you won that buckle?
Yes.
Yeah. It was crazy on
Bro,
Friday.
that's like real deal cowboy.
Oh, he's like
here.
a legit cowboy now.
And I didn't start all this until 1883.
And you did a cutting competition?
And now I'm so immersed that I'm able to win a cutting competition.
Yes,
After this, he's going to in a cutting event right after this.
Yeah, right after we end this, I'm going to go support family.
You're like legit Texas cowboy.
And I've been
now.
on a horse twice in my life, and I'm from here. That's where it goes to show.
Your New York husband.
But I literally
Rocking the giant belt
look at
buckle
us
that
both.
he won.
I am fully New York.
Exactly.
He is
you got
fully
You
cowboy.
got the black leather.
Couldn't be more opposite.
But it's just, but I do find so much joy in it, and I fully fall in love with a genre or a style or something, and I don't feel mentally like I'm pretending. Like I fully.
You appreciate it.
I appreciate
You're
every
like
second of
sucking
it.
the marrow out of it. Yeah.
Yes, and that's what I do. I'm like all or nothing. I feel like most of the time, and this is just such a supportive and incredible genre and piece of history that I get to be a part of. And there's so much support in this world.
I think in Fort Worth too. That's mainly.
Especially
It's
living
like
in Fort Worth, that I don't want to leave it.
So do you want to do more kind of this Americana?
Totally.
Are there more is there anything on the horizon?
Yeah. So
in
I've
that
got
space?
I'm actually in recent news, producing partner Jonathan Brownlee and I, and the lead singer of Brian Kelly of Florida Georgia Line are going to be doing the Will Rogers project, and we're going to be
Like his story?
like his story.
yeah, they got the rights to
That's
his life.
never been done.
Really?
And we're working hand in hand with the
I just got
Rogers
goosebumps hearing
family.
that.
And I'm very,
You
very
heard it here
excited.
first.
Very, very excited about that. They just released the press release on
So it's
it.
going to be a feature, like a film?
We're in negotiations with writers right now, and there's so many aspects of Will's life that I think what makes the most sense is a miniseries, just because it's so much to tell. It's almost too much in a film.
Yeah.
So we're talking with some pretty big networks at the moment
Cool.
to hopefully send this into motion. But we've got funding. We've got, Brian Kelly, Florida Georgia Line has just been so excited about this. And
How did he get brought into that?
so it actually, grab my water.
Yeah, dude.
They actually are the ones that brought it to me. So Brian Kelly has a production company with his cousin, Cuz Bros is what they call it. And they had worked with a director out of Dallas, whom I've now worked with, named Jonathan Brownlee. Well, they went to Jonathan saying, look what we have. We think we have this blessing from the Rogers family to do his life story. Would you be interested? He's like, yes. And I know just the actor who'd be really interested. So Jonathan calls me, and this is the heart of 1883. He's like, what do you know about Will Rogers? I was like, well, I can't go anywhere in the South without seeing his name, so I know he's pretty famous.
Yeah.
Started doing a deep dive on his life, which I'd never done before. Blew me away. In his day was the most famous human being on the planet. And I was like, I would do anything to be involved in this story. So came on as a producer, as well as going to be one of the stars in it. And here we are. We're fully funded, about to hire one of the biggest writers in Hollywood to pen this thing.
No, how long is it going to be? I'm assuming this is like a 2 year kind of a year to 2 year kind of process.
Yeah, totally. So we're about we're still in year one, but we're kind of coming up to a close of year one. Now going to go into the writing process. So I would truly think by this time next year we'll be in full filming production.
Cool. So you're getting to stay sort of in this Americana cowboy. That's kind of a legacy story. Like that's a pretty spectacular.
Totally.
No,
And I think that's why you've wanted to live it too. So much of the sense, it's like it's hard to tell somebody's story as well if you don't live and breathe that life as well.
And in Fort Worth, like that's...
Yes, and have the respect of it. I mean, it's truly a culture.
So what was the Fort Worth move because of 1883, or the Fort Worth move? Did you move first and then get the show, or did you get the show and then make the move?
That's the irony of all of this. So COVID hits, we move out of LA to come to Texas to be around family.
Okay.
And I come kicking and screaming.
Okay.
I am devastated.
You wanted to come to Texas?
Yes.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Not me at all. Like I said,
Hadn't
my
been back
parents
since 17.
never thought in 1,000 years I would be back.
So
And
COVID
I
hits,
work in LA. He usually worked in New York. So we're
and what were you doing at the time?
oh gosh, Gabby's Dollhouse, Trolls, Boss Babe. So my career had we moved to New York and my career skyrocketed in voiceover. So I was like in
To
LA. So
To LA.
and Eric's so constantly going back to New York. Well, all of a sudden I just have a baby and I have Molly Morgan and my career's going great. And so I'm like, I'm being punished. Like, why am I being punished? I'm having to move back home when my career.
You saw it as being punished.
Whoa.
At first, she did.
You can ask, I was devastated.
Because the Fort where she remembered was,
Wait, why did you just to be by her parents?
to be by family.
Okay.
And I worship my parents, but I was like, I'm
And
fine.
were you pregnant? Did you have the
I
baby?
just had Molly
Okay,
Morgan.
so you had a baby, and so you
Yes.
were like, I want to be by parents because.
Yeah, and I'm like, and that's such a shorter flight to get to New York too, because everything I was doing was going to New York. I was like, at least now we're in the
In
middle.
LA to New York is like time traveling.
Oh, it's
my
awesome.
God, it's a
Yeah.
full day.
Yeah. And so I was like, at least we'll be in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this was actually February 28th. We make the move. 2 weeks later, the entire world shuts down.
Oh, you made the move before the world
Before
shut
the
down.
world
Yeah.
shut down.
You were getting a little
Okay.
glimpse of what it was, but we had already had in contract. So that's when you know it's Eric was right.
That
fate.
was number one of us being at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
We were able to sell our house at the top of the market in LA. We moved. 2 weeks later, the world shut down, and now we're just
Stop.
2 blocks away from her entire family.
Uh-huh.
So we have family to spend this entire quarantine with, and then the world reopens. I get an audition for 1883.
Oh, so you hadn't gotten that yet?
No,
And
it
they all still think that he's in LA.
I didn't tell
everything's
anyone
in
I
LA.
left LA because I didn't want. So many actors left the industry at that point.
Yeah.
Once COVID hit, they were like, "I'm readjusting my life and I'm out."
Yeah.
So we didn't want anyone to think we were done.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we still had a place in LA because I work in LA full time.
Yeah.
So it's we just had.
And in voiceover, you're still going into a studio. You're still going in.
Yeah, and I have a studio in my
Before.
house now.
Okay.
So a lot of time
Yeah.
because
Now
of
it's
Eric,
more remote.
yes, I
Now
have to
it's-
do more remote because I can't travel as much back and forth or can't be staying there full time.
So world shuts
Wild.
down. It reopens. 1883 casts out of LA. I send in a tape. They
Out of LA.
Taylor
Thank you.
Sheridan calls to tell me I got the job. He's like, is there a rumor? Are you living in Texas? And I was like, yeah. He's like, where in Texas? I said, Fort Worth. He's like, where's your house in Fort Worth? And I was like, are you familiar with the town? I knew nothing about him. I didn't know he was from here. Went to Pascal.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm very familiar. Tell me where your house is. So I told him. He's like, you're going to be 15 minutes from where you're going to be filming this thing.
No way.
I fell
Wild.
out of my seat. I could not believe. So I was like, all
You-
right.
And you sent in a tape. So this wasn't even like an in-person.
No,
No.
everything
Oh, 'cause
was
it's
going to be
COVID,
a
'cause
tape because of COVID.
Well, so wild though. You have to tell them about your tape.
So
Did you film it or did you hire? How's that work?
I filmed.
Oh,
And it was all my idea. So as you know, with our industry, when you put in a self-tape, the big wigs always get it ahead of you.
Okay.
So it's he had A-listers Taylor got to see first.
Yeah.
And Eric, I
They
think he said
prioritize
they
the-
prioritize. Based
Taylor
on
told me I was
ages.
the 11th tape the network wanted him to watch.
Okay.
But I'll let you go on. Rough Creek is so close to my I've gone there my whole life. I was like, Eric, get on a horse for your slate. So a slate is where you say your name and agency kind of before the audition. I was like, let's go out to Rough Creek and pretend like it's your actual horse and that's our land.
Oh,
And so we literally
again, the fake it till you make
yes,
it kind
and what you call the horse that we've never met this horse before, but we were like,
fake
this is my horse.
publicist.
Yeah, dollar or money or
Yeah,
something
he said
like
money.
that.
And of
so-
course, Taylor called him out on it. He like knew immediately that like he wasn't actually like a really
Okay,
good
so you
horse.
pretended this is your horse.
Yeah, dude, I
And
hop off.
pretended
I'm
like he
like,
was,
this is
like,
my
such a
horse
ride.
money. Throw on a little bit of the twang. And,
Yeah.
And was it similar to the character you wound up?
1,000%.
It
Yeah,
was?
because I knew what the character was at that
Okay.
point. And he's like, yeah, had you not rode up on that horse, I wouldn't even watch your tape. And he's like, that got me to watch it, and I was already hooked. And then I watched your scenes, and I was like, you were it. You were absolutely it. The network wanted, A-list
Yeah, the
names.
network did not
Do you
want
know who
him.
you beat out?
I know that there were some big names. That's
Yeah.
all I know.
Okay. Yes, dude. That's so great.
And some pretty famous people's sons. I know that for sure. Because he told
Famous people's sons.
me. Yeah. It's like, you get like, just
All the forums are like, shh.
But anyway, so that worked out. Filmed it in Fort Worth. So I'm like, babe, pandemic hits, we happen to be here. 1883 hits, we happen to be here.
You're supposed to be here.
We're
know.
supposed
You're
to be
supposed
here.
to be here.
And then her industry completely goes remote. So everything she does, she can record from home now, which is a blessing. Everything I do, nobody has in-person meetings anymore. Nobody even lives in LA anymore, but they were like a year behind us.
You don't have to deal with the LA traffic. and,
No.
like-
And the creative scene here is insane.
Oh,
it's
it's on
exploding.
fire.
I mean, here in Fort Worth, the music scene is just taken off like crazy, and the art scene, and Taylor Sheridan's filming 3 more shows here in town. Bass Reeves is about to start in January in Fort Worth. We have so much happening. And so it was one of those things that happened in life where it's like, for the first time ever, felt like doing what I'm supposed to be doing, when I'm supposed to be doing it, with the people I'm supposed to be doing it with. And it was like God just looked down and was like, I got you. And I had never felt that before.
I got goosebumps again.
It was
just hit.
crazy.
And I think it's cool too, just all while being married and having a committed relationship and having children and which are some beautiful things. Like I'm gonna go all in on this and a family and giving to these kids and also and still you can still have this career. You can still do these things, and that's neat. It's cool the way that there's been favor. There's been a lot of like favor and all of that. We haven't talked at all about your transition into voiceover acting.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
so my guess was, okay, she has kids and is now here and remote. That's when you started it, but you were doing it before that.
Yeah, before that.
How did that happen?
So when I got Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll, Dennis Leary does a ton of voiceover. And I remember him saying to me, he was like, you sound like a Rugrat. You sound. So I went to Eric's voiceover agent and they were like, well, if you would have been, what was she said, 10 years ago, you would have been like a superstar, like the Nancy Cartwrights of the world. And so our agency at the time, I got into their voiceover department and I booked Trolls, so I was so blessed.
You hadn't done that
Hadn't
before.
done a single thing. So I really got blessed in the sense I came out swinging, and it was because of my slate. I kind of sang it and I did the whole character, which you're not supposed to do in voiceover.
This is a troll.
A troll.
A troll audition.
So usually you're just like, hi, Sainty Nelsen, and I say my agency's name. And I booked it, and I just, it was only supposed to be a one episode thing, and I was on the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was so
and was
cool.
that fun? Was that?
Oh my gosh, it was so cool. And
I feel like they kind of started tailoring the part to you.
I mean, she was me. Her name was
character's-
Nova Swift.
Yeah, like Taylor Swift, but they made it Nova Swift.
Uh-huh.
She's like this fashionista.
It was
over
so
the top.
sainty,
Yeah.
to a T.
Uh-huh.
And so then it just kind of spiraled. Everything I started playing, it was like, I always giggled to make it in the voiceover industry, someone has to die out. Because really your voice doesn't change a lot. As you know,
Yeah.
Batman did it on in the hospital. It's so crazy. And it's the nicest people because nobody knows your name.
Yeah.
Nobody knows your
That's
face.
Bugs Bunny,
nobody
by the
knows.
way.
Are
What?
you?
Bugs Bunny was who he was like.
Oh, Bugs Bunny, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Are you in
They-
the studio with the other people, or are you doing it all
No,
independently?
most of the time you're by yourself. So I'm on Loud House, and a lot of the time Loud House, you're in studio with everybody, which is so cool. Which I play the grandmother on Loud House, which is so funny. And all the kids are adults.
You gotta
adults.
do the voice. You gotta do.
Oh, Meemaw? No,
Yeah,
well, I
let's-
giggle. My Ridley Jones is my favorite because she's from Brooklyn. And I was reading the script and she's an eagle. And I think this is why most of the time I always book the interesting. I was like, let's make her from Jersey. And
Uh-huh.
let's have her to be this eccentric personality. And then I come in and I'm like a blonde from the South. So I think that's the part where I've really been
Have you always been able to like switch? Like that's like
it is. I wish I could say what I'm doing right now, and like because it's so huge. What the character that I'm playing is, you know what I'm thinking of.
Is it a show or a movie?
It's a TV series. It's
TV
the one
series.
kind of I told y'all about out there. But I think it's just I have. I know, but my character, I like the
Wait,
character.
I don't know if I heard you talking about what.
Oh, well, Spidey and Friends. So something's coming on the show, and I'm playing it. It's very massive, like these things that are coming. We might have to edit. Yeah, we might have to edit this part out.
Okay, we can do that.
But it is so, like, I think having kids, especially now, I'm watching it all 24/7, and I live and breathe it. So Molly Morgan, our 3-year-old, her pickup line, we laugh. We were in Seaside, and there was like a 6-year-old, and Molly Morgan goes, "My mom's pillow cat." And so now it's like her pickup line. Like she thinks it's so cool. Like she didn't even watch my
their friend is probably like, "What?
Are you okay?"
Oh, now they all love Gabby's Dollhouse.
We always laugh because she won't ever be able to watch anything I do till she's like 16.
So
But
she thinks
everything
like
she
I'm
does,
the
she
one
can
right
watch.
now.
I was gonna ask if they get it, if they think it's.
So we have a funny story about 1883. So I don't know what we were thinking. It was me and Eric's. So stop listening and watching if you haven't watched 1883.
Oh, he already said it way earlier on.
Oh yeah, his character dies.
Yeah.
And so Molly Morgan we're in the playroom watching it. And Molly Morgan looks up and he has the blood and she goes, "Oh, Dada's making a mess."
And I was had like food all over me or something.
And then when
She didn't realize you were dying.
No, and Isabel and
That's
Eric are
kinda
kissing.
a traumatic thing for a kid to see.
Oh, I know.
I'm like,
I
what
just
was
made
I
a mess.
thinking?
I just made a bad mess.
Dada's making a mess. And then when he was kissing Isabel, goes, "Look, Mommy's on TV." And I was like, yes, that is Mommy. That gorgeous blonde up there is Mommy.
But now, anytime she watches TV, no matter what the guy looks like, white, black, whatever, if he's a cowboy, it's Daddy.
It's Dada.
Oh, that's
Daddy's on
cool.
TV. No matter what, as long as he has a cowboy hat on,
It's Dada.
It's Daddy.
Wow.
No, it is wild.
I was the whole thing that was going through my head when you're dying in the blood was like the jacket.
Oh, yeah.
I love the jacket.
I got to keep it.
Did you get to keep it?
Yep, I have it.
Is it covered with blood or did you like
It's dirty and filthy and
Is
all
it?
the things. Yeah, it's great.
And
They
the shirt.
clean the blood off for the most part.
the jacket was so good? I was like, the blood's going all over the jacket. I love that jacket.
They were able to get it out.
Did you get to keep the hat?
That was the one thing I didn't get to keep that I really wanted.
Man, that was a pretty.
I think it's in a
rockin' hat.
museum somewhere. I think they did like.
I think they did do in 1883. The cool thing is actually because they shot the show out of order, they didn't
really?
want a lot of people to know about Eric's character. It was a closed set, so a smaller set that day. So
'cause they didn't
people
want it to get out.
They didn't because Eric was all over the press. Like God forbid they find out. That was like the biggest thing to happen on that show to that point. It kind of changed, like Eric said in interviews, it changed Elsa's character. That's really why the whole show went the way it did.
Mhm.
And we knew we were the only two. We always knew that he was going to die. The moment he got the script, we knew that. So
was
it was like,
preparing to die hard? Like, was that a?
I mean, talk about, but you think like maybe you're going to be a part of like, we didn't know 1883 was a 1-season thing until filming it.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh my God, he booked a series regular. We're going to be like set for like Yellowstone. We're going to be like 5 years from now. So then it's like, bam, we find out he dies. Bam, we find it out. It's only one. And it was always that. So it's not like anything Eric did or the show is always going to be a one-off. Like he always explained like The Crown. It was going to like age on with time.
But yeah, the dying was actually difficult. People are always like, "Oh, you just get to lay there. That must have been like an easy day." It's like actually, I think that was the hardest thing I filmed because Elsa and everybody else, the emotion was so intense. Like she's screaming, crying, grabbing me, the whole thing. Like it took everything in my power not to be crying, just feeling her power.
I bet.
And like, so I'm just like supposed to be playing dead while this person is screaming, crying, and truly acting as if she lost, the love of her life. And I'm just supposed to be emotionless through all of that. That was hard.
Was it?
That I did not expect that. I was like, oh, this is going to be a depressing day, but I really just get to lay there all day long. It's, should be okay. No, I was so mistaken.
And it was like right a couple days after our son had his surgery. So it was
wow.
like all the filming before then too. He had been so, intense and all that about our son. Well, finally he gets to go back to set and it's like he's had surgery. His life is fine. Like it's just so interesting.
And I have to play the most depressing scene.
So, yes, out
once
of
I'm
them
finally
all.
happy in real life.
You're finally, this pressure's gone, and now I got to kill myself.
Yeah, exactly.
What does practice look like for you? Like, I have no idea because I've never acted. I know, like, for guitar, I'm sitting in my room practicing guitar. If I'm giving a speech, I'll kind of pace and say, like, is it in your head? Are you like, do you go in a bedroom and like say your lines? Are you like, how do you practice and prepare for whether it's a voice role or on Broadway or a shit? Like, talk me through that, just the art of that. Like, what does it look like?
I mean, I probably just look like a crazy person because I'm up in my office just like pacing my room, just like looking at my script, saying my lines out loud, talking to nobody.
Do you read it a bunch first?
Yeah, I read it a bunch first. I'm like a preparer. I don't feel confident unless I put in every second of preparation I know that I can put in. And so I want my lines prepared emotionally. I'm breaking down the beats of where my character is emotionally.
And you're saying that out loud?
First I'll write it all down.
Okay.
And then once I've mapped out, so to speak, where this scene is supposed to be going, how I'm supposed to be feeling, I'm doing all this sitting at my desk, and then I'll stand up. Once I have that mapped out.
You write down the emotions?
I write it all down.
Like, what? Give me an example. Like, what does that mean?
So if you look
I am sad?
Yeah,
Totally.
For the most part, yeah,
Okay.
just your beats of emotion throughout. When does this scene shift? When does it go from you're focused on getting this girl to like you? When does it shift from, oh, she's into me, to, oh God, maybe she's not into me, and when does that play out in the scene? Just so I'm mentally understanding of everything.
You have the lines.
Got the
now
lines.
You're writing in
Next to
Kind
the
of
lines,
everything.
wherever.
beats of emotion.
Beats of emotion.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
And this is usually after you've watched like 12 movies that are similar to it. Or
I gotta
like
watch the director's work.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
I've got to, if it's a certain genre, I'm going to watch all the Westerns.
If you ever want to hire Eric, know he will be prepared.
Okay.
But
Like,
the
to the
best
max.
part is,
And are you the same way, or are you more like on the fly?
I'm on the fly. 100%.
but the funny part is I do all this work and then I get to set and I throw it all out.
I know, yeah.
And
Oh,
it's
you
as if
do?
none of it exists. And it's all going to live its own life once it's there. But the prep, I have to do that.
Gives you confidence.
Yeah.
So you write it down, and then you stand up,
And then I'm up and then I'm
and
like
you start
on its
saying
feet.
it,
Yeah, saying it.
like in a
hearing
loud
it.
voice or in a quiet voice.
Pretty much the voice it's going to be in. So depending on what the scene is. If it's an intimate scene where I'm sitting here talking to you, it's about this volume. But, if it says in the scene that she starts to walk away and I don't want her to, I'm going to raise my voice to get her to stop from walking away. Just so I can start physically and emotionally feeling these things out.
The
And is
TV actors, it makes me giggle that you say like, talk normal voice. It's so not normal voice. Like that's because I come from musical theater. Everything's projected.
loud, uh-huh.
And I'll be doing a self-tape with him, which is what you do for auditions to give to casting directors. And Eric talking. And I'm like, speak up. I can't hear you. Like it is so, but everything on TV, it's like when you see them in real life, they're all so much smaller than what they look like on TV.
Uh-huh.
Like my brothers always made fun of Eric. They called him TV sized because like they don't make him in Texas like this.
Everyone's
But it's
huge
like
down here.
everything. I giggle that he says like I'd be speaking in a normal voice. No, everything is like slightly below. Like even their yelling is like not yelling.
Yeah, it's good. It's quieter. And so, are you close it? You tell the kids like, I know you hear Daddy talking.
Oh yeah, he disappears.
Leave him alone. And do you do it at night or during the day, or like does that matter? Or
I
all day, every day.
it doesn't matter, but if it's something I'm preparing for like a big audition or something, and I know kids are gonna be going to bed at 7, those nights I'll be up till like 11 or midnight trying to get it in when there's no distractions. Because I'm also one like she can multitask so well. She can do 1,000 things at one time, and understand them all and remember them all. I can't do 2 things at once.
Okay.
I have to focus on my task or else it's not going to work.
yeah.
So whenever I can find that time is important.
And then do you do it and then do you show it to her? Like, do you like?
Oh, I am the.
Do you do that or do
I
you?
am so hardcore. God loves
she
him.
tells me like it's she gives it to me real.
Uh-huh.
Like,
so real.
which I
because
need.
I want it for him.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm gonna be the only person that's so blunt to you. Like you should see. Oh gosh.
I mean, the 1883 slate. I probably did one and showed it to her. She's like, everyone's going to do that. How is that going to set you apart in any way? And then I go back to my drawing room.
Poor thing, I've said to him before, I'm like, do you even know how to act? What is no, we are so, because I want it for him. And I'm like, I see his potential. Like, it's not, no, I mean, we are brutal with each other because he always says I'm his biggest director. And I am, because he is.
She's always right, though.
I
mean, most of the time, she's spot
because
on.
he's the kindest. He really is the kindest, hardest worker you'll ever, like, I don't deserve someone like him. He really is. His heart and soul is the most pure and kind. And I'm more the one that's intense. And so it's, for me, it's like, I want it for him so bad. Like, even with the ICU thing, it was like, he deserves it. And his heart is like, he never talks bad about a person. And he only wants, like, if he gets an audition, he doesn't think it's right for him, he gives it to somebody else. Like, nobody's like that. And so for me, I always feel like it's my job
you got
to, like,
tissue around here?
No, to, like, protect him. And I think that's the hardest part for me, is like, I just want it so bad for him. And then that's the hardest part. I think that because he does work so hard for it.
And like, you have to, because at least in my head, because I'm like, oh, there's somebody out there. There's somebody else out there putting in a couple more hours. I can't stop, you know?
And it's like, he has to share his hours with a wife and kids. And like, he doesn't have it by himself.
Yeah.
And he has the pressure of, like, you know, keeping us healthy and happy. And we've had a difficult time with our son being sick. So I think that's the hard part too, is balancing. And we have it easy. Like, I can't say we don't have it hard. Like, it is our hard and our normal. But that doesn't come near what some people have to go through.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm like, it's the balance of all of that. I think that, but I just want it for him so bad. Yes, it would be easy to have a man that just goes in to work every day, you know, an easy office and gets to come home. But that's so not our story.
And it is cool too, because, you know, like, you go, you travel, you do your work. But when I'm here, and
he's on.
It's 100% home. Yeah. So it's either all filming or all home, which is great.
You have to tell the story about preschool.
What? Oh, one of the dads. So
this is when he goes. Eric drops Molly Morgan off at our preschool most of the time, every day.
Yeah, I take my kids to school every morning.
Yeah,
I love that.
That's
like my favorite part of the day.
I love it.
And one of the dads, one time, I come to pick her up at 2:00 or whatever, and one of the dads looks at me. He's like, dude, you look so much like that guy from 1883.
He said that?
Do people tell you that? I was like, they do. They tell me all the time, actually. And he's like, man, I can't get over it. That's such a good show. He's like, it's a compliment. I was like, no, I'm taking it like one. Thank you. And the teachers are all kind of out front, and they're all giggling. And he looks at me. He's like, why are y'all giggling at me? And they're like, that is the dude from 1883. He's like, no way.
He's like, what?
Yeah,
he was like, I just thought you were like the dad. Like, it's like, you never think that's like at home.
Yeah.
But I'll give that to Eric. Like, he never, I always say I'm his publicist. Like, he never talks about himself. I'm always the one that's like, he's doing this right now and he's doing that. Just because I'm so proud of him.
Yeah, you're proud and you're bragging
oh my
on
gosh. And just, he is a man. Like, if you should see him with our kids, and like the fact that he does what he does with our kids and does what he does for me. Like, obviously I give him a hard time because I'm the wife and that's my job. But I never thought I'd find a man, why I said I never wanted to be married, find a man as amazing as my dad. I didn't think they existed. I just was like, they're one of a kinds. And then I found another one of a kind. So it's like,
How wild is it that you knew that first day?
I don't. It's psycho.
Do you have like intuition on other things? Like, do you have like, do you feel things? Like,
I sometimes
is my assumption.
Either like a guardian angel, even like with our son Mick, I always feel like I'm placed when he was in the ICU. It's like usually one of us would be gone, and I really feel like I have like this guardian angel or something or a great intuition.
Great intuition.
That's always
even
there when I need
people.
it to be.
And she's like, Eric, I just don't. I'm like, no, he's awesome. Trust me, he's got my best interest at heart. And then 2 weeks later, I got burned, the worst of burns. You know, like she gets it right away.
Some people have that where they can see through it and sense it and feel it.
Yeah. And I'm always trying to give someone like the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, no, he is a great guy. I've seen great things that he's done. And she's like, yeah, but you clearly haven't seen what I've seen. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how you do it, but she's always been that way.
And so you can read the room when you walk into it.
Yeah, so I did like interpersonal, and I did communications, but I did interpersonal business communications. And it's really like the psychological reading people, the communication and what is real. And which is so funny because I come off so not real. So, but it's like, if you actually know me, I'm like.
You think you come across not real?
I think because a lot of people don't see it's like such a big personality.
I think it's just big.
And I think because of outside of Texas, that's not a lot of the norm.
Yeah.
But I also contribute it to being Texan and being musical theater.
Yeah.
It's like double whammy. I'm a personality.
And when you meet her mom, it's like
you get it.
You're twins.
Yeah.
Okay.
Her mom's the exact same way.
And so is my dad. My whole family. We're just big personalities.
So, but you have the awareness to think people are going to think
100%. But it kills me too because it's like that takes a lot. Like if somebody doesn't like me, it kills.
You like people to like you.
Yeah.
And you probably don't care quite as much.
You don't care.
Yeah.
Like it truly destroys me. Like it takes a lot. Or the hardest part for me is because of the industries we're in, people say negative things when they don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, boo-hoo, it's so true. It's like, well, y'all are putting yourselves out that. But it's like, I wish
like,
you
do you
could
get
see.
haters?
It's unbelievable.
And do haters crush you? Like,
yes, and a lot of the time, like when it first happened, it's like they went after me. And that was hard because I wasn't in the industry and I wasn't getting myself out there. So that was an interesting, but that was just, Eric doesn't take it personal. A lot of time I take it so personal.
Mm-hmm.
And I really take it hard. And it hurt. And especially when they come after Eric too, then it's like the mama bear in me because I'm like, you don't know him.
Yeah.
Like if you knew him.
And she'll be mad that I'm not mad.
Yeah,
you know?
that's the part.
But I don't
I'm
care,
like,
baby. I don't know this journalist from Timbuktu. Who cares? She's like, Eric, but you should care.
You should care. See, and that's the part I'm still learning daily. That's the thing that I have to work on. And I always say this over and over. I'm learning how to grow up too. Because I lived in Texas and I feel like I lived it pretty sheltered with an amazing family. And boo-hoo-hoo, like, of course I need to grow up. And I get that I'm just growing up and I'm learning this world and learning being a wife of somebody in the public eye and trying to be a mom and trying to keep normality. That's I think the thing that we're learning. And I think for once we kind of got to
normality is a tricky.
What is normal?
Yeah.
And what is normal with your...
Especially in y'all's world, it says so.
Totally.
Yeah.
But we feel like we live such a normal life and then it's like, oh my gosh, it's not normal. Like I always think it, because we've lived it for so long and I have wanted that for so long that it's like, I just think it's normal. And then it's like our sweet babysitter that started, I'm like, oh, this week is crazy. Don't judge us on this week because she just started. And then I'm like, this week is crazy. Don't you? I'm like,
it's been every week.
No, y'all, it's every week since she started. And I'm like, oh my God, this is just our life.
It's just your life, yeah.
And
I can relate to that a little bit.
And it's fortunate. Like, don't get me, I am so blessed. And like, I thank our lucky stars. But it's like, that's so much of a going back to giving back. And like, because we could call cook and because like, we are and try to do things to give back because we do know that we are in a great place that we have, though my son was sick, we were able to call people and get him in. And
that's another thing about Fort Worth that is, to me, so unique and so incredible is the support here. And, you know, coming from a family her family's been here, you know, for your whole life and for a long time. They have so much support, and there's so many people around that they know who you are, so they take care of you because you've taken care of them. And it's like such a...
There is a camaraderie. We want you to succeed.
Yes.
Everybody
that's really unique, even from like Dallas and other like it's very unique. Like people want you to have a seat at the table. They want like...
And I've never felt that. Didn't feel in LA, didn't feel in New York, and too young to feel it in Florida when I lived there. So I was like, I have to live here. And now the industry's booming here. It's just, you know, if I could work and stay in Fort Worth or Texas the rest of my career, I'd be happy to.
Yeah.
I'm
excited. Yeah, I feel like y'all are going to be a part of shaping that industry and the culture of Fort Worth.
That's our goal.
I feel like you're going to be a part of bringing that here. I think you already have.
Thank you for saying that.
And I've seen y'all like put in the work to with Visit Fort Worth. They're one of the sponsors of this podcast, but put in the work of being an ambassador. I think it's neat. I think you're helping to shape that, and I'm excited for like 10 years from now. What does it look like? I remember my wife is from Dallas, and when we first got married, she was like, I'm never going to live in Fort Worth. It's too small. It's too small of
Totally.
a town. And she got offered a job here. So we did move here and there was nothing here. And so she was really restless. She was like, should we live in LA? Should we live in Nashville? And we were looking at Austin, and we had this moment. We were looking at houses in Austin, and we were looking at moving, and we just had this moment as a couple where we're like, man, it feels so consumeristic that we want to go to these other cities because they have more exciting things. Like, what if we could bring the things that we want to Fort Worth? What if we could
Totally
play a role in shaping that versus just reaching for something else? And so we kind of had this epiphany as a couple, like, man, we want to be here and we want to make this the city that we want.
Totally.
What if we played and anyways, I feel like you guys are doing that and have done, even in the short period of time you've been here, it's been
Thank you.
inspiring and exciting to see.
Well, and I think it's, what is it, Cheers, where you want to go where everybody knows your name.
Yeah.
And but that's everybody here. It's not just because of the industry. It is everybody knows somebody that knows somebody that's just like, it's such a special place. And I really couldn't be more thankful, especially for our children.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't know what I would have done. Like to have
Through all of that. Yeah.
Yes. And calling Eric and just taking in the time. I'd met a girl. She lives down the street from us during COVID. Her name's Catherine. And now she's a dear, dear friend. But she was a nurse in the ICU. And a year and a half later, for some reason, she was the first person I called when I was driving to the emergency room by myself. I was like, and she was the first to bring me clothes. I mean, brought me everything. And I'm like, she didn't have to do that. That's just like her heart that does that. And that's what every single person has here is like the heart is I've never seen anything or experienced anything like that. So to be on the receiving end, I pray one day that we can just constantly give that to people because that's what we've been given.
Yeah, you can do that. But it also takes going away to
realize you only
it,
know what you have until you left it, and then you come back.
Yeah. I'm going to take us in a little different direction. What does success mean? Like, do you feel successful? Like, do you have a moment where you're like, I made it, like I've done it, or do you feel like you're still scratching at that door? Like, what does?
I feel like that's changed so much for me throughout my life and career, and now truly, when my daughter looks at me and says, "I love you, you're the best daddy," that I've hit success. Like I never expected that, and to have that sort of love and to have somebody in the world that, you know, you've brought life to, and you know they are reciprocating that to you. I tell Sandy all the time, I was like, I could retire. I've checked every box I wanted to check as an actor. Obviously, I want to keep growing, and this is my career, but I could truly retire knowing what I've done and be okay with it, knowing that I've got you and I've got our 2 children. I feel like that is the success.
Was there a particular moment like where you felt that, like either you're watching the show or you know, or something happened? Like, was there a moment where you're like, this is it? This is everything I've been chasing? Like, was there a particular moment, or was it just a feeling?
I think it was just a feeling, and I think it's come and gone over the years. You know, there'll be that next thing that I've been fighting so hard, you know, to get that series, and then it comes, or, you know, equally for you, I feel like on the voiceover front. And it's just been this feeling. And now with the kids and stuff, it's like nothing else really matters.
I know,
It's like
everything kind of changes when you have kids.
Yeah, I'm putting all this hours of, you know, work into my career, and it's so rewarding. But that reward will never even hold a candle to the feeling you get as a parent. We went to our daughter, had a little dance recital last night. You know, she had a 2-minute dance in this thing with a bunch of other 3-year-olds. And I was like just sitting there watching her, and I was like, this is the greatest feeling. I mean, nothing on set compares to it. Yeah. So it's cool to tap into that.
Yeah.
I think the success too, and ours is just where we are happiness wise. Like I feel like when Eric is happy, that's success to me. When my kids are happy, like my mom used to tell me, you're only as happy as your saddest child.
Yeah.
And it's so true. Kind of depending, like right now, I feel like I'm mentally the happiest I've ever been.
Really?
I've like gotten myself in check. Eric is so like our kids are healthy right now. Like 3 weeks ago it was a very different. So I think it changes daily.
Yeah.
What success is. I giggle as being a parent is like the most up and down thing. Like some days I'm like, I am crushing this. I have got this. And then some days I'm like, I can't function.
Yeah.
So it's like and I feel like our careers are like that, where you're just like, oh my gosh, I am such a good voiceover star. Like they loved me. And then the next day I'm like, it was horrible. It was horrible. It's like such a bipolar.
Do you even want to be an actor?
Yes. It's like, it's truly an up and down daily thing. And I think there's obviously something that each actor wants. It's a drive. I don't think any actor ever feels successful with their career, no matter what. I think you're always wanting that next thing. So it's like we've got lucky to find success in our personal lives, which I think makes success. Because if we were talking just success when it comes to careers, neither of us, I know both of us, we're always like, we want this. We want to go here and go. And it's not awards, but it's like, we just want to expand this and tell the story of this. And I think every actor and anyone in the entertainment and an artist, anybody that's an artist, we all have something that we're like needing and craving to give to the world. That I think that's the thing that nobody as an artist feels successful.
Yeah.
I think because we're always, depending where the world is, we're always wanting to give something to the world. We're thinking the world needs this right now. And so, and the world is constantly changing.
Yeah.
So I think and I think as right now in our lives, we understand parents and young parents and giving. That's where I feel like we're relating to most in life. And that's what we want to give in our career-wise to help. But it changes. It's a couple years ago. I mean, we didn't think about, parents or like, I wonder if that actor is going through this, or I wonder if their child's like, you just don't get it until you're there. And I think we're in the good thick of it right now.
Yeah. I love it. I love the gratitude with all that.
Oh, if it all ended tomorrow, the gratefulness that we have. And I think that's the part that I hope really shows with both of us is, yes, we are so grateful. We don't take it for granted at all.
Oh, there's been so much gratitude. I just oozing from both of you guys, which is cool. And I feel like just the word I'm feeling, just a steadiness. I feel like, I don't know if it's you've gotten this steadiness from each other, or like it seems like y'all have been hit with a lot and have worked really hard, and just to have this sort of steadiness you've found together that's really cool.
And
it's really inspiring.
I was going to say this earlier,
Thank
and
you
it's
for saying that.
That's so kind. And because Eric and I were best friends first, he lost me for about a year. I say that, I think it was Goldie Hawn, or when somebody said they lost their smile. I lost my smile. I was gone.
When was that?
When I was pregnant with our son, Mick, and then him being sick.
Okay.
And I think Eric always knew I was in there. And it's like, I could not focus as a wife. I had to be a mom and I think that's what we've learned, especially, is he always knew who I was. And that thing, like I said, giving grace.
The benefit of the doubt.
Yes, that just maybe somebody's going through it, and give them a little grace. Because I truly believe, yes, there are some people that are innately evil. I hope most of us aren't innately evil. And then I'm in there. And I think that's what Eric gave me, was grace and time. And then he knew Sainty was, I'll come back to Sainty. Like, she'll come back at some point. And he never believed that I was gone, that he didn't give up on me.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot. And especially being young, and poor thing, the biggest thing to ever happen in his career and then his whole personal life is falling apart.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't know that. Like, Taylor didn't know that. And none of his cast members know that. Like, his life was falling apart around him. And it's like, that's cool to know that, like, he knew I was in there and he still loved me and believed in me, to give me that time to, like, focus on the craziness that was going on in my life, that I came back. And that's why I feel like we truly are. You're seeing the side of us. Like, if you would have interviewed us a year ago, I think it would have been a completely different interview.
Well, that's part of the coolest thing about us having gotten together so young. I mean,
so we've grown up together.
That was only a year ago where you said you were in that hardest time of your life, and I knew you for the 8 years leading up to that. So, like, obviously, we got blessed in the sense of having had that time together. We had so many years without kids too. So.
Yeah. But a lot of people run away from that. It's scary.
Yeah.
And especially the world that we live in. It's just scary on top of scary. You know, it's like a lot. And it's during COVID times. It's like you're now stuck with your partner 24/7.
You better like them.
Yeah,
Yes.
for real.
And
That
like
does make or break for a lot of
financially.
people.
So I think that's the biggest thing too. So
But
I'm
man,
very.
and it makes you stronger.
Oh,
like
my.
that's one thing I tell my kids all the time is like hard things make you stronger. Like the worst things that ever happened in my life like made me who I like.
Totally.
It shapes you in a big way.
I mean, going from the pyloric thing to who then I was as a mom during the ICU thing was like night and day. Like I remember my dad saying right after, being like, I've never been so proud of you. And like, oh my God, like I didn't even realize, but like I'd grown up from, what was that, 8 months apart, how much I had grown up and learned.
Mhm.
And that I was able, like, I'm okay. I've got this. I'm going to be okay. And I contribute that to all the people around me. It's I got to be okay because of them. They picked me up when I did fall.
Yeah. Thanks for the vulnerability, sharing all that.
Oh, I hope to as a mom too, because I think we all behind our kids' perfect pictures and our Instagrams, especially mine. Mine's covered with kids and happy and what event we're doing that day, like Eric's post of being at the Yellowstone interview.
Yeah.
That there's a lot more behind people, and that we all go. I mean, the biggest thing is the grace thing.
Yeah.
We got to give people the benefit of the doubt. And when we're hiding behind the computer screens, that maybe they're going through a hard time, and that I even said that to my sister-in-laws too, is like, thank you, that I'm so glad they're seeing this Sainty now.
Mm-hmm.
And that they didn't, or, you know, it's just different. It's like you really do have to give people time and energy. And I went through it. And right now I'm out of it, but who knows if Eric will be in it next, or, you know, or if our child will be in it next. And you just got to know the heart of people.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
give them time, especially I think it's harder with I hate that word, celebrities, but people in the public eyes, you don't get to see that in them.
Yeah.
So you judge immediately of what you're seeing on screen or what that interview said. So I think what we're learning is more to be vulnerable, and that have gone through tough times.
And it enables other people to be vulnerable. Like when they hear that, like I'm free.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And I had every card given to me under the sun, and I couldn't, like, to help me, and I couldn't get out of it. So that goes to show. I can't imagine even the position I would have been in if I had no help.
Yeah.
Or not had parents around, or not have a husband that's doing a great work. So it's like, even more so, I even know how privileged I was with and being in the hardest time, and I still couldn't get out of it.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's when you know too.
Yeah.
That it's like, it's just a feeling.
What kind of on that note, were there any things that you did or do now, like particularly like routines that help you stay grounded, that help you know, you show up the best you can, that help, like, is there anything like, whether it's exercise or like, are there any routines or things that you do that help with that?
You want to go first? I feel like I'm chatty Kathy. It's
No,
Stories
I
with
mean,
Soul with Sainty.
I mean, it's just spitting great stuff. Things that help with stress. I mean,
Stress or just like, do you like even personal, like just showing it, like what is your, because to have the success that you guys have had and to do what you do, like, doesn't happen on accident. You can't just stay up till 5 a.m. and, you know, you there has to be some discipline.
Totally.
So I'm curious, just some of the disciplines and routines, if there are any, that you've cultivated that help you, you know, when things are stressful, and just to show up the best you can possibly show up.
yeah. I mean, I definitely think there's always a point where we look at each other in a week or in a month and we're like, it's time for us. It's time we go have that dinner. It's time we go see a movie. It's time we go do something. Kids, babysitter, life.
Date nights.
Yes,
Quality time.
date nights. Everything goes on the shelf. We haven't had a night. For us, that's key. It, like, you know, it's like a breath of fresh air every time we get to have those nights. And as I said, we feel it. And it's just like, all right, time to do that. That's a big one, making sure we make time for just us.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think personally. I mean, for me, the gym is huge.
Yeah.
I love working out. I get my stresses out, you know.
You do it in the morning and night?
Morning.
Morning.
Yep. If I could get up and that'd be the first thing I do before I have breakfast, that's like my dream.
How many times a week are you working out?
When I'm away filming, almost every single
day, yeah.
Every day.
Yeah, but at home, so many only so many hours of the day,
Yeah.
right?
He deadlifts like Molly Morgan. Like they'll
Our favorite thing to do.
Molly Morgan always says,
workouts.
"Daddy, let's exercise," and they'll get down and like
Yeah.
because she loves. I mean, she's not seeing me do it. So
That's why when I was talking to I forget his
Paul.
name. Yeah, Paul, and he was talking about this new home workout equipment that he's got that's like making him feel like he's like working out even more than he does at the gym. I'm like, that's something I think I need. It's hard to break away from the house sometimes.
Yeah.
But when I do, I'll try to get in at least a run, a couple times a week, and then the gym maybe a couple times a week while I'm home if I can. But it's important mentally and physically for me.
totally. I'm gonna be like uber vulnerable for
Come
you.
on.
I mean, so I think on July 12th, July 11th was my dad's 60th birthday, and I boo-hooed to my brother about Mick. I'd had too many cocktails, and I was just sobbing. And I'm not a big drinker at all, a social drinker. And I just was always worried about Mick. Like since Mick has been born, there's kind of been something every 2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
And I woke up that next day, and Mick was 11 months old. I was like, this is it. I've got to grow up. Like I keep saying that, but that was my breaking point. Is I stopped drinking completely, and I started a small dose of anxiety medicine, which is like so, like for me, that was like a fail growing up in Texas.
A stigma.
Such a stigma.
Yeah.
But I was like, I have got to get a grip. Is it truly? I woke up the next day and changed my entire life. I've lost 50 pounds since then.
50?
Yeah, it's my whole life has
That's
changed.
crazy.
I know. So it really, July 12th, I tell people it's like I wasn't a drinker, but I think it's because I would spiral. I'd have a fun night. Well, I'd be up with Mick all night. And then that would set my whole day wrong. And then I know I couldn't get sleep the next. I was like, I was barely keeping, I was underwater. I couldn't keep. So I was like, I have got to change this because I'm going to be the only person that can change this for me. And July 12th, it's my whole life had changed. But doesn't mean I'm not going to drink. It's not like I had it. Thankfully, I don't have an issue with drinking. It was just like I need to be the most clear.
Yeah.
Which is so funny because it's like I said, the smile, I got Sainty's smile back. It's like I needed people to say if you're on like a small dose or big dose, whatever you're on a medication, it's like you're not clear. Well, that's the most clear I have been. It's like I got who I am back. And like where it's like I'd wake up every day with my heart Eric knows, like my heart racing.
Yeah.
And it's like if you look at my life, it's like, you didn't need to. Why is your heart racing? But it's just something that
you had. There's a lot.
Totally, but comparatively, So I really did. It's like July 11th or July 12th. I'll always remember because the day after my dad's birthday is like I knew things have got to change.
And so diet changed.
Whole everything had changed. I was like, I just woke up
And
happy.
it's been since July since you drank, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Wow.
that's great. Yeah, she's been.
and I'm not a drinker, which is so funny.
Yeah.
But I think it was just one of those things that would
the discipline of it.
the discipline
and choosing clarity.
Yeah, and I was telling the doctor, I was like, because I called him that next day and I was like, I'm walking 2 hours a day and 0 weight is coming off because I couldn't. I was so stressed. I think my body was like holding on to everything that it was like, oh, I can breathe. Like, it's okay to breathe. Like, I remember a couple months ago, I was like, Eric, I have such anxiety. And he was like, welcome to feeling like how it's okay to every now and then have anxiety. You don't have to wake up with anxiety every day.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like, who knows? I'll have to be on it a year from now, but it's right now. I feel like I can handle things as a mom and as a wife and as me. Like I got Sainty back. I'm not just like Eric's wife or Molly Morgan and Mick's mom. I'm like, I can contribute to this world just as Sainty and just as normal Sainty, and that's okay. So I think that's helped me a lot. And I hate the stigma of it because it's like, who cares? Like, who gives?
Yeah. What? Yeah. If it something that helps you and gives you back, like that's huge. We should celebrate that
and give it to anybody. Who cares? Like what anybody does, as long as it helps them. They want to be a vegan, if they want to be on all different kind of medications, if they need to go to the gym, let each person live their life. If that can help them and make them a better person, or if they think that's helping them, right then, just let it be.
Yeah.
Let it, if this is helping me, who knows if I'll drink tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it's helping me right now. And I think Eric's gotten me back. I think, which is nice.
Thanks for sharing all that.
Of
You've
course.
been crazy vulnerable, which is really neat. It takes a lot
Thank
to go into that, and
It's hard to be vulnerable as a mom
And I
because
feel
I
like
think
that's really feeding into how confident and good you do feel about yourself right now. You know, because I don't think you would necessarily be able to talk about all these things if you weren't completely past them and feeling
totally
strong. And, you know, so that just kind of is the exclamation point to everything you're saying.
And it's hard as moms to like, especially, and females to show vulnerability. And that as moms, I think sometimes we're all hiding behind these things that it's like, it's okay to not be okay sometimes too.
yeah, for sure. In this vein, is there, if you could go back to your younger self, whether college or high school, like, what advice would you give your younger self? Is there anything that if you could go back 10 years ago, 15 years ago,
Man, that's a great question.
Oh, I know.
That's such a great question because you could say like,
that you've learned now in your career or in like just either one of those?
I mean, that's such a great question.
Ugh, I know.
I guess I would just say, you know, stick with it. You know, keep fighting. It is all going to pay off. Because I can't tell you, you know, as an actor, our career is based off of like 99% rejection. Truly, I mean, the amount of jobs we're up for versus the amount that we actually get to work on are like 1,000,000 to none. And there were so many times where I was like, felt very lost and you know, was getting into this or getting into that to try to distract myself from what my real goals were and just thinking it wasn't going to happen. It's like I felt bipolar at times, which, you know, it's just, I couldn't help it because it was just like everything is great or nothing's happening at all. And until I found Sainty, that's just always how I felt because there wasn't anything consistent. And so I would say, you know, the struggle is going to be a part of, you know, the success, and you're going to be rewarded. It's going to be worth it. Don't give up on who you are and what you want. And, you know, it will have a bumpy ride, but it's all going to work. So just keep fighting.
Yeah.
Keep being you.
Yeah.
And if I heard that and knew that it was true, it would have changed everything.
You think so?
I think so. I would have had, I don't necessarily think it would have changed everything because my drive was the same, but I think I would have had the surety of knowing that
Could
I am,
breathe.
yeah,
The
and doing
confidence.
what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Did you have some self-doubting along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. And any actor that I've ever talked to has felt the same way at some point. I watched an interview with Christian Bale not long ago, top 3 favorite actor in the world.
Oh, he's so phenomenal.
And he said, had Leonardo DiCaprio not turned down every movie that made me famous, I never would have been famous. He's like, the only reason I worked is because Leo didn't want that movie. He's like, everything I've gotten was something that he turned down. Wow. He's like, so I constantly struggled with, am I enough? You know, is this where I'm supposed to be? And when you hear that from the guy who's on top of the top, so to speak, you know, you realize that, okay, I'm not alone. And it's something we all struggle with as actors, undoubtedly, because our career is in somebody else's hands.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm always at the mercy of the network or the producer or Taylor Sheridan calling me again.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, that's all I want. Dude, I love you. You've changed my life. If I could work with you the rest of my career, I'd be so happy.
Yeah.
Please just call me, you know? But even now, like being on one of, you know, his most top-rated shows, I still don't know what's coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
So the fight continues. But had I known that when I was a younger actor, it would have caused me a lot less anxiety and stress. So that would have been sure something.
Yeah. I would say probably the biggest thing is don't take for granted the people around you. For me, it's like I've always had incredible supportive parents, and I just thought that was like the norm. I just didn't.
The mom flying up to warn you about
like
the bad boy.
I think I never appreciated it until like now I don't like even Eric. Like I think I took for granted how good I have it all. And it's like, I think now I'm so thankful. Like I truly don't know to have the friends that are family, that are like my family around, and the people, like I keep saying the Fort Worth, but it's so true. I mean, you should have seen the people in the hospital room. Like every Dr. Easterling, everybody I had was on a call, and I think I wish I would have, when I lived here, knew how wonderful I had it. I was so looking ahead, like I said before, of what I wanted and to get to New York and to get to a place that I didn't realize I had it all here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Eric always knew I had it here. And that's why he got us back
That's why
here.
he drug you here.
No, it's so true. But I
Somehow.
never really, I didn't even know it when we moved here. I was like, why are we here? I got to go.
Uh-huh.
So I think I wish I would have told myself, like, enjoy this, take it all in, take this love in, because this is so freaking rare. And a lot of other places don't have this. What we have it sounds so silly, but it's so true, in this Fort Worth bubble and this Texas bubble of love. It's but it's so true. It's so wild. It's like very rare. Do you get to go, even no matter what, it's like you go to dinner and it's, people don't talk about politics, or they don't talk about, what they think, their religion. You're just talking about your day, and just like you're really getting to know the heart and soul of people without all this extra stuff around it.
Yeah.
And that's really cool.
Yeah.
So I think it's taking for granted what I was given living in a place like this and growing up in a place like this.
Yeah. Cool. Both great pieces of advice. Thank y'all for sharing those. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna hit you with a couple like rapid questions, and then we'll put the bow on the episode. Favorite movie?
Fight Club.
Tommy Boy.
Oh, totally opposite.
Totally. We are yin and yang.
Wait,
man.
can I tell you really funny? So
Tommy
Eric
Boy,
knows
I
this.
love that you said that.
kind of have a fat fetish. And if Chris Farley, I say this.
On Chris Farley
on
specifically.
Chris Farley. Because if he would have met me before
You
he
would
had
have
passed
gone out with Chris Farley?
1,000, that he would be alive
yes.
if he would have met me. I
She
truly
thinks
believe
this, bro.
in my mind, if he would have met me, he'd still be alive.
And I would be a depressed actor in New York by
Yes,
myself.
I would marry Chris Farley.
I would be Chris Farley. I would probably not.
Y'all,
Be there.
that may be my favorite moment of this conversation. Favorite TV show?
Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad?
Oh, any of the Real Housewives.
Oh, which one's your favorite?
Oh, Beverly Hills.
Beverly Hills.
Of course. It's so true, though.
Yeah. My wife watches them all, and
I'm
like,
obsessed.
I poke in every once in a while.
Oh my
and-
god! Once
and,
they all start screaming, I'm out.
Oh, I love it.
I like the drama. I'm
Oh,
like, give me
man.
a good,
Give me all
give me a
day.
good dinner party.
Oh, and like Kyle Richards, I've met a few times, and she is the nicest human alive. And then Cameron Westcott of Real Housewives of Dallas, the kindest woman alive. So I was like, when I meet them, I'm like, oh my God, I'm even more obsessed. Like, I'm meant to be a Real Housewives.
You are.
minus the
We
drama.
need a Fort Worth one.
I know.
Oh
Come
my
on.
God.
I know.
Sainty, make it happen. Okay, favorite show as a couple to watch together?
Oh, we go through different.
Probably
things.
Yellowstone.
Yeah.
I feel like that was the first one. When
Yeah.
Eric got the audition, I was like, if you don't book this, my whole family's going to be
Don't
pissed.
blow it.
I was like, no, literally.
Everyone in our family was a fan. I think it's the first and only show to this day that I've worked on, 1883, where all ages and all family members loved it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it wasn't just like my cool younger cousins or not
Yeah.
just like the housewives in the Midwest. Like everyone in my family, it's the first
Yeah.
show that they've all watched and loved.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It took 17 years, but finally got on one that everyone liked.
I love it. I love it. Sainty, this is for you. Favorite kids show, and you can't say one of your own. Like as a voice actor, do you have a show like that you love?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
like
Well,
a
my goal one, and I don't think it's still, was
bucket list?
Vampirina.
Oh,
I wanted to be on
Vampirina's fun.
Vampirina.
Vampirina.
So bad. Or Rugrats. Rugrats has
Rugrats.
got me into the industry, but Vampirina, like right now, is like I wanted to be on it so bad.
Uh-huh.
But I work with that casting and that whole team of it. But I was like,
my kids
I
love Vampirina.
love Vampirina.
Yeah, it's a fun one. Favorite director?
I mean,
Gosh.
you kind of can't top Scorsese, but Lynch would be like the top of my list that I could work for. Like outside of the like Spielberg,
Mm-hmm.
Scorsese, like
Sheridan.
monsters. Yeah, I would probably say David Lynch would be like the top
Yeah.
of
And
my
what has
list.
David Lynch done?
Fight Club.
Oh, Fight Club. Okay.
And so many others.
Oh God, any female director, I think
Yeah.
right now would be so cool. Especially,
Bigelow, she's epic.
yeah. I mean, it'd be so like cool to work with another female. Especially, I think we just view things differently because I feel like a director all the time with Eric. So it'd be really cool to work with any female director right now.
Love it. And favorite meal in Fort Worth?
Joe T. Garcia.
Joe T's?
Yeah. I mean, that's where we eat the most. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
We spend the most. If we rack up hours at one restaurant in Fort Worth, that would be the most.
And we
Yeah.
love Tim Loves restaurants, anything. But we're just constantly at Joe T's.
Yeah.
It is like
It's just always an easy.
It's my
Yes.
favorite restaurant. And you can bring kids and your kids can run around.
exactly, and we
throw
love
things in
the
fountain.
family,
Yeah.
like love the land cards. So it's like
I'm going there tonight and tomorrow night.
That's how it goes.
That's how we are.
We have my wife's Christmas party tonight, and then my company's Christmas party is tomorrow night.
And always at Joe
Amazing.
T's.
It's
Talk about
yeah.
you go where everybody knows your name.
Yeah.
And you feel it's like
It's just magic.
It's magic.
Well, guys, this was I have like 10 questions I didn't even get to, but we've gone for a long time, and it's just been fun. I think a couple takeaways for me is one, I think just the support, and not even support in terms of like I'm here, I'll catch things while you're doing like, but the cheerleading almost that you have for each other, like the wanting each other to win and be successful is really, really cool. And then I think the steadiness through all the things is really neat. The vulnerability that you've shared is really incredible. And I think also just your passion for Fort Worth. All of those were just fun things for me to just glean and hear from you guys. So I'm a fan. I'm glad y'all are here. Keep doing what you're doing. I can't wait for what's next. And I really do think like you are shaping the city in some cool ways. And I think you're going to inspire and bring in other people. And so I'm excited for what's next, and just for your family. It's cool. So thank you for inviting me in for a little bit.
Thank
you,
you.
bro.
We're
This was
so
a
honored
blast.
to be here.
Congratulations, you made it all the way to the end. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Stories with Soul. If you enjoyed the interview and like what you heard, please help us out and share, subscribe, and like anywhere you listen to podcasts. When you share and subscribe, it is insanely helpful and allows us to keep producing new episodes. You can always join us directly in the studio by watching the video version on our website, 6thAveStorytelling.com. Stories with Soul is brought to you by 6th Ave Storytelling, an organic marketing company building standout brands on the foundation of story. You're obsessed with your business, and we want to make the world obsessed with it too. Thanks for listening.